Chapter 2438. Gu Jingyu's face turned pale as though he had been struck by lightning, staring at Yi Qing Luo in disbelief. Yi Qing Luo rubbed her forehead as she sighed helplessly. Do I look like someone who doesn't have a fiancé? No. Gu Jingyu took some time before he found back his voice, as his face was still pale. I'm very surprised you've already betrothed yourself to a fiancé. Looking at Gu Jingyu's expression, which had suffered a huge blow, Yi Qing Luo didn't want to reveal any more hot news. She only nodded her head, casually. Following that, she persuaded him earnestly. So, young sect Master Gu, your future is infinitely bright, so you shouldn't just place your sights on me alone. Just like what you said, you don't have any other ladies by your side, so when you see me, you will have a different feeling towards me. Actually, this isn't what you think of as love and like. But this was their first meeting, and they didn't spend much time together. Yi Qing Luo didn't think that Gu Jingyu's feelings towards her were that deep. At most, he was just interested. She had to cut off Gu Jingyu's interest towards her as soon as possible. To Gu Jingyu, to her, it had to be better. Most importantly, her Xian was a moving vinegar jar. One Zhu Wu Xan had already made Xian extremely unhappy. If there was another Gu Jingyu, Xian would probably tie her to his side. Recalling that Xiao Wu Wu had already gone to the upper realm to tell Xian about the matters in the northern continent, there was a possibility that Xian would be back soon, before Xian returned. This peach blossom must be cut off without leaving any traces behind, just as Yi Qing Luo was cursing incessantly in her heart. Gu Jingyu's expression instantly turned extremely gloomy. His brows were filled with grief. It had long lost its usual warmth. His fingers clenched tightly as his eyes, which were like the vast stars, were slightly red. You're not me, so how would you know if I love and like you? His voice was filled with the pain he was enduring, as though he was complaining about Yi Qing Luo's cruelty. Yi Qing Luo's throat tightened as she looked at the pale-faced man with red eyes, speechless. Indeed, she wasn't Gu Jingyu. She was unable to stand on Gu Jingyu's position to judge his feelings. However, Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips as her alluring eyes lifted up slightly, meeting his reddened eyes. Sorry, my heart is very small and can only accommodate my fiancé alone. Gu Jingyu clenched his fists even tighter by his side. His fingertips had already turned white. Yi Qing Luo could only pretend not to see it. Sometimes, giving the other party hope when there was no hope was truly cruel. She faintly said, Many thanks for blocking Third Elder Miao's insect poison for me in the Bu family village. I will remember this kindness. With that, she turned around and walked towards the other side of the city gate. Gu Jingyu opened his mouth several times, wanting to chase after her and call her. But when the words reached the tip of his tongue, recalling Yi Qing Luo's cold gaze earlier, all the words were stuck in his throat. Finally, the hand that was stretched out in midair slowly lowered. It was as if he had lost all his strength. By the time Yi Qing Luo returned to the basement of the Peach Blossom restaurant, it was already very late. Smelling Yi Qing Luo's scent nearing, Kitty Li was the first to scurry out as she held onto Yi Qing Luo's arm. Sister, you're finally back! Yi Qing Luo rubbed Kitty Li's little head. I've made you worried. Kitty Li rubbed her head against her body. Chapter 2439. Yi Qing Luo grinned as she rubbed Kitty Li's head. Well done, my little kitty. Kitty Li smiled contentedly at the compliment. What kind of messy plan are you making in the dark again? Suddenly, the door in front of them opened and a slender and tall figure walked out. Jun Qingguo was dressed in a lotus-colored brocade long dress, which accentuated her temperament and made her look extremely charming. Seeing Jun Qingguo, Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up as she hugged Kitty Li and went forward. Little Wu, when did you come back? She just went over. Jun Qinggu had already raised her hand and placed it on Yi Qing Luo's forehead. Ayaya, little Wu. A day apart feels like 3 years. Don't be so heartless. Yi Qing Luo blinked her long and narrow eyes as she scurried towards Jun Qinggu again. Looking at such a shameless sister, Kitty Li couldn't bear to look at her. She used her claws to cover her eyes and scurried out of Yi Qing Luo's arms. Her arms no longer had the soft touch of a kitten. Yi Qing Luo directly opened her arms and pounced towards Jun Qinggu. Stop! Jun Qinggu stopped Yi Qing Luo and rolled her eyes before turning around and walked into the room. Yi Qing Luo's smile widened as her brows were dyed with a dimple. She quickly caught up, entering the room. Jun Qinggu flicked her sleeves, and a light breeze closed the door. Little Wu, Yi Qing Luo sat opposite Jun Qinggu with a smile. That deliberately prolonged ending made Jun Qingwu's petite body tremble as she looked at her in disgust. You want to ask about the Overlord, right? Yi Qing Luo smiled even more brilliantly. You're indeed little Wu. You can even guess someone's heart so accurately. Jun Qinggu rolled her eyes again. It's written all over your face. Do you need me to guess? This means that someone treats little Wu as one of their own. Everything is written on your face. That's the trust in little Wu. Yi Qing Luo's curved eyes were filled with a pool of spring water. Jun Qinggu. In order to know the news of the Overlord in the upper realm, little Qing Luo, you don't even want your integrity. This thick-skinned, he was really shameless. Jun Qinggu didn't keep Yi Qing Luo in suspense. I have indeed met the Overlord, and the matter of Miao family colluding with the people from the upper realm has already been told to the Overlord. He asked me to tell you that as long as he's around, there's no need to worry about other unnecessary factors. Just go ahead and do things your own way. After conveying this message, the corner of Jun Qingwu's mouth twitched. She couldn't imagine, once the Overlord and Shao Qing were together, just how lovey-dovey would they become. These two people clearly hadn't even met face to face. They were clearly separated by a plane. She was even fed a mouthful of dog food for no reason. However, when Jun Qinggu looked at the young girl in front of her, that pair of charming eyes gradually lit up after listening to her words. She took a deep breath. Fine, if I'm fed dog food, so be it. He had to get used to it. Little Wu. Then, did he say when he'll be back? Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes fluttered slightly, revealing the nervousness in her heart. Jun Qinggu remained silent for a moment. His matters in the upper realm have not been settled. After he's settled those matters, he'll be back immediately. Yi Qing Luo's face flashed past a sliver of disappointment. Chapter 2440. Yi Qing Luo covered her face, which was pinched in pain. Her emotions were still somewhat unstable. There was no sign of the joyous spirit when she saw Jun Qingwu earlier. She stretched out her arm and placed it on the table, immediately placing her face on the table. She felt the cold touch of the table, soaking through her skin. Yi Qing Luo sighed helplessly. Xiao Wu Wu Xianhe? What is his identity? Is he in the upper realm? The same as in Nirvana realm. A highly respected person. Jun Qingwu was about to comfort her when she paused. Her cold and elegant face froze for a moment. Jun Qingwu's emotions changed very quickly. Yi Qing Luo was feeling lost and had not raised her head to discover the change in Jun Qingwu's expression. She heard Jun Qingwu's voice. No matter where the Overlord is, he will not be an ordinary person. As for the specific identity of the Overlord, I think the Overlord would like to tell you personally. Yi Qing Luo's eyes moved slightly. She was naturally clear. Dmo Xian was absolutely not an ordinary person. Even in the upper realm, his status, his identity were all revered. Thinking of this, Yi Qing Luo felt that the gap between her and Dmo Xian was getting bigger and bigger. She even said that she wanted to be on par with Dmo Xian. Today, she couldn't even head to the upper realm. Xiao Qing Luo, what's with this pitiful expression? A hand poked Yi Qing Luo's head hard. Yi Qing Luo sucked in a breath of cold air in pain, hugged her head and raised her head. Jun Qing Wu looked at her without blinking, her slender brows raised high. Isn't it just a man not by your side? The Overlord is not seducing other women outside, not abandoning you, not abandoning you. What nonsense are you thinking about in this brain of yours? Jun Qingwu, who had always been cold and aloof, now put on an earnest and well-intentioned look. But it made Yi Qing Luo feel refreshed and laughed out loud. She revealed the same cheeky smile from before. Xiao Wu, you're really trying your best to persuade me to pull myself together. Seeing that Xiao Wu is so worried about me, I'll forget about Xian and all that. Shoo, shoo, shoo. I am not worried about you. I am just fulfilling my promise to the Overlord. Jun Qingwu pushed Yi Qing Luo away with a look of disgust. But Yi Qing Luo regained her smile. Jun Qingwu finally heaved a sigh of relief. Yi Qing Luo didn't miss Jun Qingwu's relaxed expression as she smiled sweetly. I know. There's a huge disparity between Xian and me. Those who know Xian all feel that. I'm not worthy of Xian. However, Xian chose me. Regardless of whether I was worthy or not, the person Xian loved was me. Even if it's for Xian, I will work hard to make myself stronger, work hard to be able to keep up with Xian's footsteps, work hard to make everyone recognize my qualifications to be by Xian's side. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo's emotions had returned back to her confident and flamboyant self, Jun Qingwu looked at Kitty Li, who was sitting at the side and chewing on a biscuit. All right, you found out more or less about Dizun. Now, tell me, what scheme did you and Kitty Li plan? How is this a scheme? Yi Qing Luo put on a shy look as she patted Jun Qingwu's shoulder. It's just a small prank. Wait till daybreak. I'll bring you to watch a good show. Your smile is so sinister. Who would believe you if you said it wasn't a scheme? Jun Qingwu rolled her eyes. Who would believe that? Yi Qing Luo turned to look at Kitty Li. Kitty, do you believe it? Chapter 2441. The next day. It wasn't even 5:00 in the morning when Peach scuttled into Yi Qing Luo's room and actually woke Yi Qing Luo, Li Mao, and the rest up. Qing Luo, something big has happened. Peach pressed her hands on Yi Qing Luo's shoulders and pressed hard. Do you know there are more than 10 black-robed men's corpses hanging at the entrance of the Battle King's residence? Yi Qing Luo yawned. I know. Huh. Peach was stunned. She had just received the news, and Qing Luo knew about it so quickly. Li Mao rubbed her sleepy eyes. Mao knows too. Peach immediately released Yi Qing Luo's shoulders with a frustrated look and took a few steps back. How did you know before me? Jun Qingwu was already dressed neatly and leaned lazily against the door. The good show you were talking about, is it this one? Yi Qing Luo nodded with a smile. Isn't this show exciting? Jun Qingwu arrogantly rolled her eyes at her. Peach then seemed to understand the meaning in their words. You mean this matter is done by you? Yi Qing Luo shook her head. No. Peach heaved a sigh of relief and patted her chest. I knew it. How could such a thing happen under the nose of the 3,000 peach blossoms? I don't even know. Before she could finish her words, Peach felt her wrist being grabbed by something. Peach lowered her head and met with a pair of watery eyes. Her heart warmed. Mao, what's the matter? Kitty Li tilted her head, tugged at her sleeve, and said very honestly, The thing you said, it was Kitty who did it. Oh. Peach was like a bolt of lightning. She looked like she had suffered a serious blow as her delicate body swayed and fell backwards. You actually hid it from me and did such a big thing. If it was done by Yi Qing Luo, she could still comfort herself a little. After all, Yi Qing Luo was a pervert. What Yi Qing Luo did, it was natural that the 3,000 peach blossoms had no inkling. But This matter was actually done by Li Mao. Peach expressed that she had suffered a huge blow. Peach, have you been hooking up with some handsome young man recently? They don't even care about the 3,000 peach blossoms anymore. Yi Qing Luo stood up lazily as she raised her hand and patted Peach's shoulder. The news that the Battle King's manor had sent soldiers to hunt me down. You actually haven't received it till now. TSK. Looks like General Battle King is really on guard against your 3,000 peach blossoms. Peach covered her face and screamed, "What handsome young man! The fact that I fell for Jean Z means that I'm not someone who looks at appearances. How could I be seduced by a pretty boy? I'll go investigate the warlord's mansion right now." With that, Peach ran out with a thunderous look on her face. Wait. Yi Qing Luo was tickled by Peach's actions as she called out to him, "Help me investigate on the South Continent's young matriarch, his real motive for coming to the North Continent and Bu family village, as well as the Miao tribe's ancient goo worm." Peach stared at her helplessly. "You're really rude." "After all, I am your idol." Yi Qing Luo nodded her head and smiled. Peach clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. "Consider it that I've fallen into your hands." Saying that, she turned around angrily and left the room. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand behind her back and laughed loudly. "Little Peach, thank you." Peach left even faster. Chapter 2442. Outside the Battle King's residence, there were quite a number of commoners who pretended to be passers-by. In actual fact, they were trying to find out the gossip about the Battle King's residence, although they knew clearly in their hearts, the more gossip about the Battle King's residence, the faster they would die. But that couldn't stop the commoner's heart from gossiping. You've all heard about it. When I passed by the Battle King's residence, I saw 10 over bloody corpses hanging at the entrance. Who's declaring war on the Battle King's residence? This must be a provocation. Someone is targeting the Battle King's residence. The commoners who knew about it were discussing, and those passers-by who were attracted by the solemn atmosphere of the Battle King's residence were astonished after hearing the commoners' discussion. I was wondering why there were so many soldiers guarding the Battle King's residence so early in the morning, so it's because of this matter. Say, who do you think would do such a thing with such great fanfare? It's going to be Qinghua Sec's sovereign's 50th birthday soon. For such a thing to happen in the Battle King's residence, wouldn't it be infuriating to Qinghua Sec's sovereign? That's right, I really don't know who the Battle King's residence has offended. There's actually someone who dares to provoke the Battle King's residence in Qinghua City. When Yi Qing Luo, Jun Qinggu, and Kitty Li arrived at the Battle King's residence, it was extremely crowded outside the Battle King's residence. At this time, it was not even 7 o'clock in the morning yet. Outside the Battle King's residence, rows of well-trained soldiers stood upright, preventing anyone who came to inquire about the news or visit to enter the residence. Yi Qing Luo leaned forward a little. Although the outside of the residence had been cleaned, but the smell of blood was still so pungent. Yi Qing Luo's group of 3 ladies, all of them had elegant figures, and their looks weren't bad. Towards beautiful things, everyone's eyes were always able to discover it quickly, very quickly. Someone recognized Yi Qing Luo as the young lady whom General Battle King had ordered the entire city to search for. Thinking back to this morning's gossip, the commoner's gaze towards Yi Qing Luo was instantly filled with fear. Those corpses. Could it be this young lady's doing? During this period of time, the common people's minds were filled with all sorts of conjectures. There was a young girl named Yi Luo, and a secret that had to be told to the warlord's mansion. When the commoners' gazes were all gathered onto Yi Qing Luo, a man dressed like a general who was guarding the entrance of the warlord's mansion walked over. "Are you Miss Yi Luo?" Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and raised her eyes to meet the general's eyes. "Don't tell me." General Battle King specially asked you to wait for me here? The general's face darkened, and a dignified aura was released. In his heart, he was also a little surprised. Normally, ordinary people would be scared out of their wits when they saw him. This young girl actually dared to look him in the eye and even guessed his purpose here? No wonder! Why would General Zhan Wang pay so much attention to this girl and be so vigilant? Is this the attitude of General Battle King when he invites guests into his residence? Yi Qing Luo sneered when she sensed the general's threatening aura. That general was stunned as he became more and more curious and concerned about Yi Qing Luo's identity. "Miss, please enter." Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled upwards, with a calm and unperturbed look. His left hand was held by Kitty Li. His right hand was hooked around Jun Qingwu's wrist. Hugging on both sides, he followed behind that general. Chapter 2443. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head and shrugged her shoulders. "Oh, then there's nothing to talk about." The general looked at the two beautiful ladies. One was lovely and charming while the other was cold and aloof. He thought that these two ladies wouldn't be able to cause any trouble if he were to let Miss Yi Luo leave just like that. The War King General would definitely blame him. Hence, the general stretched out his hand and made a please gesture. "3 ladies, please." Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and walked past the general directly into the Battle King's residence. The general stared at the trio's back as his eyes sunk slightly. Behind him, the commoners were pointing at Yi Qing Luo and the others' backs. They were all guessing. What was the background of this famous red-robed young lady in Qinghua City? What was her relationship with the Battle King's residence? Why was it that even the people sent by the royal family to inquire about what happened were stopped outside the Battle King's residence? But that young lady was welcomed into the Battle King's residence. The speed at which the commoners in Qinghua City spread gossip was rather fast. It was just the time for a stick of incense to burn. This matter had already spread like wildfire in Qinghua City. More and more commoners gathered at the Battle King's residence to watch the show. Inside the Battle King's residence, the general brought Yi Qing Luo and the other two to the meeting hall of the Battle King's residence. The door of the meeting hall was wide open. There was a strong smell of blood coming from inside the room. Yi Qing Luo took a look and saw the black-robed men's corpses lying on the ground, dripping with blood. The Battle King's expression was gloomy, as if he was shrouded in a layer of dark clouds. He sat on the main seat and pointed at the corpses on the ground while berating the soldier standing beside him. The soldier bowed his body and kept saying something, but this angered the Battle King even more. The Battle King roared as he raised his palm and sent that soldier flying. A lump of something flew towards him. Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly as she pulled the two people beside her to avoid it. The soldier fell heavily to the ground and rolled a few times. The Battle King also saw Yi Qing Luo standing at the door. His malicious eyes suddenly turned sinister as he slammed the table hard and stood up. "Yi Luo, you're finally here." Yi Qing Luo hugged on both sides as she leisurely walked into the meeting hall. Her long and narrow eyes were slightly narrowed. His tone was extremely casual. "If I didn't come, wouldn't General Zhan Wang blame all the soldiers under him?" She spoke. He had already walked to the wooden chairs on both sides of the meeting hall. The 3 of them sat down on their own. Yi Qing Luo propped her chin as she blinked her eyes at Battle King. No matter what, these soldiers are all brothers who had followed General Battle King for so many years. General Battle King had merely met with some unsatisfactory matters, so there's no need to vent all your anger on your own brothers. Furthermore, you're so ruthless, as if you don't care about the lives of your brothers. General War King, aren't you afraid of disappointing your brothers? Yi Qing Luo's voice was very soft. His tone was nonchalant. It was as if he had said it casually, but it made Battle King's face turn black completely. Young lady, are you trying to sow discord between this general and the soldiers? Stating the truth in General Battle King's eyes, is it sowing discord? Yi Qing Luo sneered. If General Battle King feels that it's sowing discord, then so be it. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's indifferent expression, Battle King was so angry that his chest was heaving up and down violently. Chapter 2444. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes curled upwards. Battle King is ridiculous, do you think? You have the cheek to question me? These are my soldiers. They are my brothers who have risked their lives for me. Why can't I question you? Battle King clenched his fists tightly as the veins on his forehead popped out. Yi Qing Luo burst out laughing with a buffed. She looked sideways at Kitty Lee and smiled faintly. Kitty! Kitty Lee's watery eyes lit up as she turned her head and looked at Battle King. She had a sweet smile on her face, and her eyes were filled with excitement and were extremely bright. She suddenly let out a shrill cry. Her body suddenly turned into a shadow as she stretched out her hands and scratched towards Battle King's face. Presumptuous! Battle King didn't expect that Yi Qing Luo dared to make a move on him in front of so many of his subordinates in his territory. Immediately, anger welled up in his heart, and he counterattacked with a backhand. But just as Kitty Lee's claws were about to scratch Battle King's face, just as Battle King's counterattack was about to land on Kitty Lee, Battle King's body suddenly staggered a step forward. His counterattack hit nothing but air. He only saw a black shadow passing by in front of him. He took a closer look, not knowing when Kitty Lee had already returned to Yi Qing Luo's side, as she sat obediently, as though nothing had happened earlier at all. This was a blatant humiliation. Battle King's face was gloomy and terrifying. He was actually played by a little girl. Miss Yi Luo, what do you mean by this? Battle King's eyes were cold as he asked angrily with murderous intent. Yi Qing Luo leaned lazily against a chair as her lips curled up slightly, as she gave a light smile. According to General Battle King's habits, shouldn't General Battle King be sitting there obediently, waiting for the enemy to kill you, before letting your trusted aide take revenge for you? This sentence was obviously ridiculing Battle King. The War King's expression immediately darkened. Miss Yi Luo, are you trying to push the blame for the deaths of my brothers onto me? Yi Qing Luo covered her mouth as she gave a low laugh. Her smile was extremely flirtatious, am I wrong? When General Zhanwang sent your brothers to kill me, you should have thought of the consequences. Come to think of it, the deaths of your brothers were caused by you, the general. You're talking nonsense. The War King slammed the table and said righteously, How could I send my soldiers to kill you? You're just a little girl. Do you think you're worthy of me sending my soldiers to kill you? No one will believe such words, even if you say it out. The War King made up his mind. Anyway, Yi Qing Luo had no evidence to accuse him of trying to assassinate her. No matter who it was, they wouldn't believe it. He was the dignified Northern Wave Continent's War King General. He would send his trusted aide to kill a young girl. Moreover, this young lady had a criminal record. He had targeted Yuan Kuang and poisoned him. He could definitely insist that this little girl was a spy sent by another continent to deliberately target the Warlord Mansion. She wanted to weaken the Warlord Mansion's strength so that it would be easier for her to invade the Northern Wave Continent. When this speculation spread, whether it was true or false, this young lady would not be able to walk out of the Northern Wave Continent alive. When the War King thought of this, his eyes flashed a sharp and sinister cold light, just as he was about to open his mouth to counter Yi Qing Luo. The housekeeper's voice suddenly came from the door. General, the Southern Wave Continent's Gufeng sex young matriarch requests an audience. I won't see you. Chapter 2445. As soon as he finished speaking, the warlord's voice paused. He straightened his face and walked towards the housekeeper. Who? Did you just say? The The housekeeper was about to go back to report when he heard Battle King's question and turned around respectfully. Southern Continent's Gufeng, Sex Young Matriarch. Gufeng Sex Young Matriarch? Battle King frowned slightly. Out of the corner of his eyes, he glanced at the three women sitting in the hall with a hesitant expression. As for Gufeng Sex Young Matriarch, he had long wanted to rope her in. After all, Gufeng sect was the real #1 sect in Southern Continent. No matter if it was the royal family or other families, no one could restrain Gufeng sect. Unlike West Continent, where Three Springs sect was managed by Yi Tianquang, they were gradually declining, and no matter which large family clan it was, they could casually step on them. Unlike Northern Continent, although Qinyu sect status was outstanding, but it was still mutually restraining with the royal family and the Miao Gu family. So, if he could get to know Gufeng sect's young matriarch, to his position in the Northern Wave continent, there were only advantages and no disadvantages. But, helplessly, Southern Continent and Northern Continent were in opposite directions and were very far apart. He had no chance to interact with Gufeng sect's young matriarch. Now, Gufeng sect's young matriarch had personally paid a visit. He pretended not to see her. There might not be such a chance in the future. Thinking of this, Battle King finally said, "Quick, invite Gufeng sect's young matriarch in." The housekeeper nodded and retreated. Battle King flicked his sleeves and returned to the meeting hall with a cold smile. "Count yourself lucky. I have a distinguished guest visiting today, so I won't haggle with you." After that, he glanced at the manservant at the side. "Send the 3 ladies out from the back door." The manservant stepped forward and was about to leave with Yi Qing Luo and the others. Yi Qing Luo sat lazily on the chair, not moving at all. "Tisk, General Battle King is really awe-inspiring. Do you think I'm someone whom you can summon at your beck and call? Yi Luo, don't try to fool around. You should feel lucky that I am willing to let you go." Battle King's face sunk as he threatened. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laughed. "I'm afraid General Battle King still hasn't figured out the situation. What do you think is the reason why I walked into your Battle King's residence today?" The War King's expression changed. Thinking that the Gufeng sect's young sect master was about to arrive, he clenched his teeth and said angrily, "I don't have the time to talk nonsense with you here. Men, send them out." Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly, looking at the servant who was rushing over and trying to take them away by force. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes. An invisible profound energy sent those people flying out. Battle Monarch's sword-like brows turned sinister as his palm swiftly pressed down on Yi Qing Luo's face. Yi Qing Luo, however, stood up leisurely. Her red clothes fluttered even though there was no wind. There was a trace of bloodthirsty coldness on her beautiful face. Battle King's body inexplicably stiffened under Yi Qing Luo's gaze. He was suppressed to the point that he was unable to move. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled up as she enunciated each word clearly. "Now, it's not whether General Battle King wants to find trouble with me or not, but I want to seek justice for myself." Her brows arched upwards. It was both enchanting and cold. "I will not let the matter of General Battle King sending soldiers to kill me go. If General Battle King is unable to give me a satisfactory answer, I will put this debt on General Battle King's head." Chapter 2446. Battle King felt his heart tightening. It was as if an ice-cold hand had ruthlessly strangled his heart. That coldness, it made it difficult for him to even breathe. "General Battle King, since you have the guts to send your men to hunt me down, then you should be prepared to bear the consequences." Yi Qing Luo was fearless in the face of Battle King's gloomy expression. Battle King was furious. He knew that this slut was the bane of the Yuan family. Nothing good would come out of meeting her. She had to create trouble when the young matriarch of the Gufeng sect came to visit. Thinking that the young sect master of the Wind Valley sect was about to reach the conference hall. The War King roared in exasperation. I've said it before, these soldiers are soldiers who guard the northern wave continent. They are not assassins. Moreover, you are just a young lass. Do you think it is worth it for me to send my men to hunt you down? If you continue to pester me, don't blame me for bringing this matter to the royal family, to the Chinua sect. Let's see how you can continue to survive in the northern continent. Oh, Yi Ching Luo dragged out the last syllable and nodded with a smile. Then do it. If I can't survive in the northern continent, consider it my loss. You. Seeing Yi Ching Luo's stubborn look, Battle King was so angry that his teeth itched. He was a dignified General Battle King. How could he make a fuss over such a small matter? This slut didn't want face. He still wanted face. What's more, this slut dared to be so arrogant, insisting that he was the one who sent those soldiers to hunt her down. Who knew if she had any evidence in her hands? If it went to the royal family, if it went to the Chinua sect, it was a small matter to lose face. If the news that he had sent his trusted men to hunt down a 15-year-old girl was spread out, he would really have no face to continue living in the northern continent. At this moment, a gentle voice suddenly came from behind. General Battle King, did I disturb you by visiting so suddenly? Hearing this voice, Battle King's body stiffened. Little by little, his face, which had been distorted by rage, returned to normal. He turned his head and saw a gentle and elegant man in a bamboo-colored robe greeting him politely. The War King immediately grinned and quickly walked over. The Wind Valley sect's young sect master's arrival brings light to our humble dwelling. How could it possibly disturb me? Come, this way, please. I've already ordered the servants to brew the best tea in the hall. As he spoke, he held the man's arm and walked in another direction. However, Gu Jingyu moved slightly and shook off Warlord's hand. He looked in the direction of the conference hall and said, Doesn't General Warlord have a guest? You don't have to go to the lobby. Let's just stay here. You can also meet new friends along the way. As Gu Jingyu spoke, he had already walked into the conference hall. His gaze immediately fell onto Yi Ching Luo, a pair of eyes so gentle that it seemed as if water could be squeezed out of them. At this moment they glowed faintly. When Yi Ching Luo saw Gu Jingyu, her slender brows creased slightly. He is the young sect master of the Wind Valley sect. His every move represents the Wind Valley sect. He came to the Battle King's residence. Didn't that represent that the Wind Valley sect took the initiative to interact with the Battle King's residence? Didn't Gu Jingyu think of this? No. Wrong. Gu Jingyu was so smart. How could he not think of this? Could it be? Gu Jingyu had heard that she was invited to the Battle King's residence by the general of the Battle King's residence. So he specially came over? Chapter 2447. Young Matriarch Gu. Battle King immediately followed up. When his gaze swept towards Yi Ching Luo, there was an obvious warning, as though he was threatening her not to spoil his relationship with Gu Jingyu. Yi Ching Luo tilted her head as she leaned lazily against the chair without any intention to stand up to greet Gu Jingyu. She was that lazy as she looked at Battle King with a faint smile. It made Battle King's scalp go numb. Under Gu Jingyu's coercion, Battle King could only suppress his fear and disgust towards Yi Ching Luo as he spoke out. Young Matriarch Gu, these ladies are unpresentable. It's better to follow me to the main hall. If young Matriarch Gu likes them, I will arrange a more beautiful lady for young Matriarch Gu. Shut up. Gu Jingyu's face sunk as he frowned. What kind of person does Battle King think I am? Gu Jingyu looked at Yi Ching Luo in panic, as though he was blaming Battle King for describing him as a silk pants in front of the lady he admired. Battle King felt embarrassed when he was berated. He laughed awkwardly as his heart was filled with disdain. Young Matriarch Gu stopped moving when he saw those young and beautiful ladies, especially when he looked at that slut's gaze. It was a blatant covetous look. Wasn't he just a silk pants who liked beauties? but he still pretended to be serious. But Battle King was just complaining in his heart. On the surface, he still had to put on a guilty expression. Yes, I was wrong. How could those ordinary ladies be worthy of such a young and promising man like young matriarch Gu? Gu Jingyu's brows knitted even tighter. This General Battle King. Must he think of him as a silk pants who was addicted to beauties? Could it be that he really looked like that kind of Casanova? Was this the reason why Yi Luo rejected him? Thinking of Yi Luo mentioning that he had a fiancée, Gu Jingyu's heart became extremely bitter. His thin lips pursed slightly as he didn't make any other explanation for his image. But he pretended to look at Yi Qing Luo and the other two in doubt and asked doubtfully, General Battle King, these three ladies don't look like they're from the Battle King's residence, and these, He looked at the bloody corpses on the ground and frowned. It's not good to let the girls see this. Young Master Gu is right. The manservant behind Zhan Wang gave him a look. The servant immediately trotted out. Soon, he brought a few strong bodyguards with him. A few guards were about to carry the corpses out. Yi Qing Luo, who hadn't spoken for a long time, raised her eyes and spoke out lazily, "Stop." His clear voice was as cold as ice, cold to the bone. Those guards actually didn't dare to move for a moment. The War King's face darkened. "Take him away." The guards immediately broke out in cold sweat. The pressure from Yi Qing Luo. The pressure from the War Monarch. The guard felt his heart clench. "Who exactly is your master?" I said, "Take him away." The War King's expression immediately became even more gloomy. In front of young sect Master Gu, even his subordinates did not give him any face. Where was the dignity of the Battle King? That guard realized that he was in the wrong and hurriedly knelt down on the ground. "Your subordinate will carry them away now." Saying that, one by one hurriedly bent down to carry those corpses. Chapter 2448. Yi Luo, you shut up for this general. Battle King's expression turned gloomy as he bellowed furiously to stop Yi Qing Luo from speaking. Immediately he turned towards Gu Jingyu's direction and said, "Young sect Master Gu, this is a misunderstanding. Don't look at this young lady. She looks so weak, but her heart is very vicious." As he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, he tried his best to explain, "This lady poisoned my son, causing him to lose his right to be a father. She has also ended the bloodline of the Yuan clan." "What?" "She poisoned my son, causing him to lose the right to be a father. Later, she poisoned the eldest young miss of the Miao Gu family. And now she killed my brothers who had gone through life and death with me, and even hung my brothers' corpses at the main entrance of Battle King's residence. Humiliating Battle King's residence." The more he spoke, the more indignant Battle King's tone became, but because of Gu Jingyu's presence, he suppressed the anger in his chest. He shut his eyes fiercely as he put on a sorrowful expression. "She killed my brothers and tried in vain to make a fuss, insisting that it was me, and sent my men to pursue her." "Oh." Gu Jingyu listened quietly and immediately raised his gentle eyes as he gave Yi Qing Luo a meaningful look. Yesterday, when Yi Qing Luo was being pursued, he was about to head over to the Bu family village to take in everything. He naturally had a decision in his heart. But what made Gu Jingyu shocked and astonished was Yi Luo actually hung those soldiers' corpses directly at the main entrance of Battle King's residence. This obviously meant that he had specially investigated Battle King's residence. He knew that Battle King's residence had always been confident and wouldn't send anyone to guard at night, so he intentionally did such a thing. Once the night watchman discovered the corpses at the main entrance of Battle King's residence, basically, the entire Qinghua city would know about it. Then he heard Battle King saying that Yi Luo had poisoned the Yuan family's bloodline. Gu Jingyu couldn't help but pondered in his heart. Miss Yi, what enmity did she have with Battle King's residence? Young sect Master Gu, it's rare for you to visit me personally at Battle King's residence. Don't let this vicious woman affect your mood. Battle King saw that Gu Jingyu wasn't acting like what he had imagined, standing on his side with righteous indignation, accusing Yi Qing Luo's viciousness, so he immediately changed the topic. Gu Jingyu's eyes flickered and his smile became even gentler. General War King, this lady, Yi, is so beautiful. She doesn't look like a vicious woman. There must be some misunderstanding. The war monarch's pupils contracted. Just because she was beautiful, she didn't seem like a bad person? This young sect Master Gu was an idiot who only knew how to look at appearances? Without waiting for War King to reply, Gu Jingyu had already put on an impartial and strict expression as he walked to the main seat in the hall and sat down. Coincidentally, I encountered this matter today. Let me resolve the misunderstanding for you two. This action could be said to be arrogant. The war monarch was stunned. Why was this South Billow Continent's young sect master completely different from the one in the investigation? What happened to the gentle young master? What happened to being refined and courteous? How did he end up here? As the host, he hadn't even taken his seat yet. He hadn't even had the chance to exchange pleasantries. Young sect master Gu went to the main seat alone? He totally didn't put him, the war monarch, in his eyes. But Battle King couldn't say this layer of meaning out loud. After all, young sect Master Gu's actions were inappropriate, but his words and attitude were very gentle and courteous. Chapter 2449. Thinking of this, even if Battle King was unhappy, he had to suppress it. He couldn't create friction with the young matriarch of the southern continent just because of the main seat. Miss Yi, can you tell me, why are you so sure that General Battle King would hunt you down? Gu Jingyu sat firmly on the main seat, his thin lips raised slightly as he asked Yi Qing Luo with a gentle smile. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Her long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly. Gu Jingyu deliberately pretended not to know her. Was he trying to help her? But this was indeed a good idea. Battle King wanted to befriend Gu Jingyu. In front of Gu Jingyu, Battle King had to restrain his arrogance. When Battle King heard Gu Jingyu's question, he quickly walked to the lower seat next to Gu Jingyu and sat down while replying. What young matriarch Gu said is right. I am the Northern Continent's General Battle King. If I want a little lass from another continent with no background to die, it's just a matter of moving my fingers. Why would I send my own brothers to hunt her down? If General Battle King didn't send these soldiers to hunt little Luo, how can you be so sure that these soldiers were killed by little Luo? The cold, elegant lady who had been silent coldly opened her mouth. Jun Qing Wu narrowed her cold eyes. Her voice was bone-chilling. Our little Luo has no enmity with the Battle King's mansion. Little Luo's brain must have been kicked by a donkey. Why would she be so silly to kill your soldiers? You. Battle King didn't know how to refute Jun Qing Wu's questioning. His eyes looked around in panic and finally looked at Gu Jingyu, as if hoping that Gu Jingyu could speak up for him. Kitty Li cupped her chin with both hands, blinking her big watery eyes. Sister Wu is right. If you didn't send people to kill Sister, how would Sister possibly kill those soldiers? You said you have no motive to hunt Sister down. Does Sister have the motive to kill those soldiers? As she said this, Kitty Li pouted and snorted heavily. Even though we are little girls who are ignorant of the ways of the world, we are not fools. We 3 sisters came to the Northern Wave continent, and we have no relatives or friends. And now it's the sect master's birthday celebration? We'd have to be crazy to cause trouble for your warlord's mansion. When Gu Jingyu heard this, he carefully pondered for a while. Then he rubbed his chin and turned his head to look at Warlord seriously. That makes sense. That gaze seemed to be saying, it's your turn. A gloomy look flashed across the War King's eyes. Just as he was about to speak, however, he heard a sweet voice say, Kitty, you're wrong. General Warlord naturally has a motive to hunt me down. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up into a lazy smile. Her long and narrow eyes calmly met Battle King's gaze. The war monarch gritted his teeth in anger. You're talking nonsense. General Battle King, didn't you say that I poisoned the young master and caused your Yuan family to have no descendants? Just because of this, you have enough motivation to hunt me down. Yi Qing Luo said, smilingly, as though the person who was being pursued wasn't her at all. Battle King's face instantly turned pale. Gu Jingyu's eyes widened slightly, as though he believed in Yi Qing Luo's words. The gaze which he shot towards Battle King was added with a sliver of sharpness. General Battle King, what these three young ladies said is very reasonable. If General Battle King is unable to refute or prove that you have no intention to pursue after that missy, then I can only choose to believe these three young ladies. Chapter 2450. Yi Qing Luo burst out laughing. She leaned lazily on the tea table and smiled leisurely. Unfortunately, General Battle King can't prove that you don't want to avenge little Duke, but I happen to have evidence to prove that it is you, General Battle King, who sent your trusted aide to hunt me down. When she said the last sentence, Yi Qing Luo suddenly sat up straight, a pair of lazy and hazy eyes. At this moment, it shot out a piercingly cold ray. Her 5 fingers moved. A token was thrown to the feet of Battle King. That token was made of metal. It fell on the ground and made an extremely crisp sound. On the token, there was an extremely obvious battle word, reflected in everyone's eyes. Battle King was shocked and immediately bent over to pick up the token. A single hand was even faster than him. Gu Jingyu held the token in his hand. His fingertips gently stroked the word battle. He looked at the War King, and his thin lips curled into a cold sneer. General War King, how do you explain this? Why is this token that belongs to you, the General War King, and is used to dispatch soldiers in Miss Ye's hands? Obviously, Gu Jingyu was completely on Yi Qing Luo's side. Moreover, Gu Jingyu was also extremely disdainful of his thick skin that refused to admit. Battle King was clear. He wanted to make friends with Gu Fengsek's young matriarch. It was already impossible. Battle King's face was pale. His whole body was tense and stiff. He stared unblinkingly at the token in Gu Jingyu's hand. His breathing became heavy bit by bit. After a long while, his face was gloomy. His whole body was filled with a daunting cold air. Just as he was about to break the pot and admit this matter, outside the door, there was suddenly a heavy sound of footsteps, accompanied by a young man's sloppy voice. It is this Duke who sent these soldiers to hunt you down. What's the matter? Do you have any opinion? Shortly after, at the entrance of the hall, a rotund young man walked in, surrounded by numerous servants and maids. The moment Yuan Kuang walked into the meeting hall, a pair of narrow eyes fixed on Yi Qing Luo fiercely. His eyes were filled with strong, murderous intent. It was like a raging storm, surging wave after wave. Kuang-er. When the War King saw his son, he quickly walked over and said, "What are you doing here? The B*TCH, who ruined our Yuan family, is here. How could I not come?" Yuan Kuang's tone was evil, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. The War King knitted his brows tightly. Yuan Kuang rubbed his round tummy and turned his head to look at Yi Qing Luo as he gave a sinister smile. "Little beauty, this Duke will bear the consequences of my own actions." This Duke had stolen Father's token and falsely passed on Father's orders to make those soldiers chase after you. All these were planned by this Duke. This prince wants your life. At this moment, Yuan Kuang was looking at Yi Qing Luo's exquisite face, and that arrogant temperament that once made his heart itch unbearably. Now, it had all turned into deep hatred. He hated this slut for making him lose the right to be a father. He was the only descendant of the Yuan family, the only son of the Battle King. But because of this slut, destroyed everything he had. Not to mention that he was the only son of the Battle King. In future, he would be able to inherit the Battle King's position. If the news of him not having the ability to conceive a descendant was spread to the collateral relatives of the Yuan family, all the glory they had now would be destroyed. Everything in the Battle King's residence would be destroyed. Chapter 2451. Yuan Kuang was, after all, still young, and he had always been pampered by Battle King and General's wife. Naturally, he didn't know how to conceal his own emotions. Disgust was disgust. Hatred was hatred. Yi Qingluo met with Yuan Kuang's resentful gaze as her fingertips brushed past her pink lips as she gave a chilly smile. No wonder you're the little prodigy who was pampered by General Battle King. Using the token to pass a fake order, this can be considered as violating military discipline. She curved her long and narrow eyes as she looked at Gu Jingyu with a smile. Young sect Master Gu, do you think Battle King's token can be stolen so easily? Little Prince can steal the Battle King's token and run to the army to pass a fake military order, then. Would he have done this frequently in the past? Gu Jingyu placed the token aside as he replied solemnly, Battle King's token is equivalent to a tiger talisman. Such an important thing. General Battle King actually doesn't know how to keep it safe and even allowed his own son to mess around. This young sect master is also very suspicious. Is this really Little Prince's first time doing this? Battle King's heart, which had just calmed down, was instantly tensed up again. Originally, he thought that Yuan Kuang would shoulder this matter alone. At most, he would only be charged with the crime of not being strict in discipline. And Yuan Kuang was, after all, still young and didn't know much. After scolding him for a while, the matter of the chase was over. But unfortunately, Yi Qingluo directly escalated it to the military discipline aspect. Whether it was him making use of the soldiers to seek revenge for his son, or Yuan Kuang stealing the Battle King's token to pass a fake military order, if this matter were to be spread, not only would his Battle King's face be disgraced, the royal family would also use this as a pretext to stir up trouble. This consequence was unimaginable. This duke is the future Battle King. So what if I have the Battle King's token? Anyway, it will belong to this duke. I'm just borrowing it in advance. Yuan Kuang had never thought of how serious the consequences would be, whether it was the Battle King's token or those soldiers. When he grew up, it would all belong to him. However, those words caused the Battle Monarch's complexion to turn green and white. He immediately grabbed Yuan Kuang's shoulder. Shut up! Yuan Kuang was as fat as a meatball, so how could the Battle Monarch hold him firmly? Father, what I said is the truth. Yuan Kuang twisted his body away and snorted nonchalantly. I told you to shut up. Warlord angrily raised his hand and slapped Yuan Kuang. He was about to be angered to death by his son. Gu Jingyu was the young sect master of South Billow Continent. The young sect master of the South Billow Continent saw this scene as a joke. When Gu Jingyu returned to the South Wave Continent, wouldn't their warlord mansion become the laughingstock of the South Tide Continent? Even the Northern Wave Continent would be looked down upon. The Battle King's mansion would also become a sinner. It was even more impossible for the royal family to let them go so easily. Although, judging from the current situation of the Northern Wave Continent, the warlord's mansion did indeed have a high position and authority. But this was all because the imperial family did not have an honorable excuse to suppress the warlord's residence. But now, Gu Jingyu coldly glanced at the Battle King and stood up. His voice was as warm as ever, but there was a hint of coldness in it. General Battle King, it seems that today's visit will have to end here. 3 ladies, I'll send you off. Yi Qingluo took a look at the Battle Monarch as her lips curled into a meaningful sneer. Immediately, she pulled Jun Qinggu and Kitty Li and followed behind Gu Jingyu and left. Warlord grabbed Yuan Kuang's arm tightly. Chapter 2452. The guide was Gu Jingyu. No one in the Battle King's residence dared to stop them. The few of them swaggered out of the Battle King's residence. The commoners were astonished when they saw Yi Qing Luo and the rest walking out. They were even more curious about the relationship between Yi Qing Luo and the Battle King's residence. The few of them walked all the way to the Peach Blossom restaurant under the attention of the commoners. Only then did they block those gazes outside. Yi Qing Luo then opened her mouth. Young matriarch Gu, thank you for today. If it wasn't for Gu Jingyu's arrival, if it wasn't for Gu Jingyu who broke his persona and stood up for her, although it wasn't that they couldn't leave the Battle King's residence, at least it wouldn't be so smooth, and it wouldn't make the Battle King dig his own grave. There was no need for her to lead intentionally. Today's matter in the Battle King's residence would definitely be spread out through some channels. You know, what I want is not your thanks. Gu Jingyu's brows regained his gentleness and elegance. The pair of eyes was so gentle as though it contained a pool of warm water. The two people beside him, upon hearing the sentence, suddenly opened their eyes wide. They looked at Yi Qing Luo in unison and then looked at Gu Jingyu. They were stunned for quite some time. Jun Qingwu's hand slowly moved onto Yi Qing Luo's body. Her slender fingers pinched fiercely on her waist, as though she was questioning her what was going on. Yi Qing Luo was also stunned. Hadn't she resolutely pinched this peach blossom? Why did Gu Jingyu still say such ambiguous words? This was to make Xiao Wu and Mao Mao misunderstand the rhythm. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath, raised her eyes, and stared straight into Gu Jingyu's eyes. Young matriarch Gu, what I can give you is only a word of thanks. Saying that, she directly turned around and walked towards the direction of the backyard. Gu Jingyu's expression froze for a moment. He hurriedly chased up a few steps. Miss Yi, I don't have any other intention. I just want to see. Master Gu. Jun Qinggu had already blocked in front of Gu Jingyu. She raised her head slightly. That cool and elegant face had no fluctuations of emotions. His eyes were filled with coldness, and there was a gloomy luster in them. Gu Jingyu stopped in his tracks. Miss, I don't care what you think about Xiao Luo. I'm warning you, you better stifle it. Jun Qingwu warned coldly. Gu Jingyu pursed his thin lips, a look of struggle and reluctance on his face. Even though you're Miss Ye's friend, you can't stop me from loving Miss Mu Yi. I forgot to mention, I'm not just Xiao Luo's friend. Jun Qi-wu smirked. I'm also Xiao Luo's fiancé's friend. Fiancé! Gu Jingyu's body trembled and stiffened. Looking at Gu Jingyu's reaction, Jun Qi-wu also knew about Dizun. Qing Luo must have told Gu Jingyu about this. Jun Qi-wu's smile grew colder. So, I'm sure you know why I'm with little Luo. Gu Jingyu's face was filled with disbelief. A pained expression appeared on his face. He stood stiffly on the spot, motionless. It was as if he was unable to recover from the pain. Jun Qi-wu casted a cold glance at him, as he couldn't be bothered to talk to him. He pulled Kitty Li and walked towards the direction where Yi Qing Luo had left. Miss. Behind him, Gu Jingyu's dry and hoarse voice was heard. Jun Qi-wu turned his head back and met with Gu Jingyu's sorrowful gaze. Chapter 2453. Jun Qi-wu. This child still didn't believe her? She was amused. Young sect master Gu. Do you think I would joke around with little Luo's innocence? Gu Jingyu hurriedly shook his head. I don't mean that. I just... Stop. Jun Qi-wu stopped smiling and raised his hand to stop him. I don't care what you mean. If you have any other intentions toward Xiao Luo, then if you see Xiao Luo in the future, please take a detour. She didn't wait for Gu Jingyu's reply and walked straight ahead. After a few steps, she suddenly thought of something and glanced sideways. Her gaze congealed on Gu Jingyu's face. Today you've helped little Luo. Let me thank you on her behalf. When little Luo's fiancé comes over, he will repay you. Miss Yi. Her fiancé, is coming to the northern continent? Gu Jingyu felt as though his throat was blocked by something. His heart was aching with pain and bitterness. Jun Qingwu gave a cold smile, yes. Oh. After sending Gu Jingyu away, Jun Qingwu pulled Kitty Li and rushed to Yi Qingluo's room. Both of them had an interrogative look on their faces. Yi Qingluo sat on the chair, holding a peach for her to investigate the latest news regarding the Miao stockade village. Seeing the two people's aggressive looks, Zhang Xian felt a chill run down his spine. Yi Qingluo put down the information and raised her hands in surrender. Heaven and earth can be my witness. I absolutely did not flirt with him, and I absolutely did not give him any chance. Jun Qingwu narrowed her eyes. Really? If you didn't give him a chance, would he chase you all the way to the Battle King's residence? I'm innocent. Yi Qingluo exaggerated her grievance. I told him clearly I'm a married woman. Following that, she spoke in a righteous tone. Moreover, which man in this world can be compared to my Xian? Am I blind or brain damaged to go flirt with other men? Jun Qingwu. Damn it. She was just interrogating someone, and yet she was stuffed with dog food? Kitty Li expressed that she was already used to it. Seeing Jun Qingwu's twitching lips, Yi Qingluo blinked and coquettishly hugged Jun Qingwu's arm. Xiao Wu, let's discuss something. Jun Qingwu squinted at her. Don't worry, I won't say anything. I knew it. Little Wu Wu is my revolutionary comrade. Yi Qingluo beamed with joy and hugged Jun Qingwu's waist. Jun Qingwu put on a fake smile and said, I didn't say it because I didn't want to mess up Di Zun's plan because of you. Yi Qingluo didn't let go of her waist. When Xian returns, if Gu Jingyu still has any thoughts towards me, I'll bring Xian to show off our affection in front of him, to make him give up on this idea. The Overlord is not as senseless as you. Jun Qingwu couldn't imagine the image of Dmo Xian and Yi Qingluo showing off their love everywhere. Yi Qingluo expressed that if it was picking peach blossoms, Xian, that vinegar jar, would definitely cooperate. Regarding the matter regarding the Battle King's residence, it was indeed as Yi Qingluo had expected. It had only been 6 hours since the incident happened. The imperial family sent someone to the Battle King's mansion to question Yuan Kuang about the matter of him stealing the Battle King's medallion and forging a military order. It was only in the wee hours of the morning that he was insulted by a corpse hanging at his door. In the afternoon, the Battle King's mansion was sealed off by the imperial family's guards. The Battle King's family was also forcibly brought to the imperial palace. After all, this matter concerned the peace and safety of the northern continent. Forging a military order was a big deal. It was a big deal, no matter how illustrious the Battle King's battle achievements were, no matter how high the Battle King's status was. Chapter 2454. This was because the moment the Battle King showed any signs of resistance in the eyes of the royal family, in the eyes of the major forces of the Northern Wave continent, the War King was rebelling. If they rebelled, it would definitely affect them. This also meant that if the Battle Monarch resisted, he would be offending all the powers in the Northern Wave continent. The War King knew that it was a tiger's den ahead. However, he could only lead the general's wife and Yuan Kuang to the palace for investigation. This news quickly spread to Yi Qingluo's ears. Qingluo, if Battle King were to push everything onto Yuan Kuang, or perhaps Yuan Kuang and General's madam, it's not that Battle King can't make a comeback. After Peach relayed the information she had received, she said worriedly, after all, the Battle Monarch didn't gain power in the Northern Wave continent overnight. After Yi Qingluo heard this, she sneered disapprovingly. If the royal family really gave Battle King a chance to make a comeback, the Northern Continent's royal family would be a joke. The Battle King's mansion had always been a thorn in the side of the imperial family. Now, the opportunity to get out of the eyesore was right in front of him. How could the people of the royal family give a thorn in their side a chance to turn things around? As for the Battle King's mansion, there was nothing worthy of her attention. The imperial family definitely won't give the Battle King a chance, at least during the Qin US sect master's birthday celebration. The Battle King won't be able to cause any trouble. Peach nodded in agreement. He mentioned the Qin US sect master's birthday banquet. Peach suddenly thought of something. That's right, Qing Luo, sect master Qin Yu's birthday is coming soon. Do you want to go together? Go, of course I'll go. Yi Qing Luo nodded smilingly. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's smile, Peach shivered. What are you trying to do? That's the birthday banquet of the Qin US sect leader. Yi Qing Luo raised her finger and shook it, putting on an unfathomable look. The Miao tribe will definitely attend Qin US sect's patriarch's birthday banquet. Miao Rongrong was poisoned because of me, so of course I have the obligation to see her. Peach expressed that she was not that naive and would never believe Yi Qing Luo's nonsense. Yi Qing Luo shrugged her shoulders. Miao Rongrong took a bottle of antidote from her. According to Miao Rongrong's personality, she was afraid of death. It was probably not enough for her to last 10 days. Perhaps in 7 days at most, the antidote would be consumed. Coincidentally, it was the day of the banquet. It was the last day Miao Rongrong needed the antidote. How could she not follow along to watch such an exciting show? I have quite a number of invitations here. Let's go together. Peach didn't continue to ask what Yi Qing Luo was going to do at the birthday banquet, based on her understanding towards Yi Qing Luo. Although Yi Qing Luo's character was arrogant and unbridled, but she was very clear under what circumstances, what could be done and what couldn't be done. At Qin US sect's sovereign's birthday banquet, Yi Qing Luo would definitely not do anything shocking. With this thought in mind, Peach bade farewell and left the room. Not long after, Peach realized how naive she had been. A few days passed by quickly. As the birthday celebration approached, the entire Joy City was enveloped in a joyous atmosphere. These few days, Yi Qing Luo had been cooped up in the Peach Blossom restaurant. Occasionally, he would listen to the current situation of the Miao stockade village from Peach. But most of the time, she would hole up in the secret room and run into the Azure Dew bracelet to cultivate. It had already been a very long time since she had cultivated within the Azure Dew bracelet. Nor did she climb the Purgatory Tower. Old Man Song had said this before. With her current strength. Chapter 2455. Yi Qing Luo also planned to find some time to conquer the 3rd and 4th floor of the Purgatory Tower in one go and get the rewards for those 2 floors. At this moment, Yi Qing Luo was on the 3rd floor of the Purgatory Tower. She had already spent a total of 3 days on the 3rd floor, and she hadn't stopped to rest. This difficulty was many times higher than the 2nd floor of the Purgatory Tower. After spending so much time, it couldn't be said that the 3rd story was too difficult for Yi Qing Luo. Instead, it was the 3rd level which relied on overwhelming numbers. No matter how strong Yi Qing Luo's speed and acute senses were, under attack from all sides, it was inevitable that it would be a little strenuous, if it wasn't for the fact that Yi Qing Luo's physique was good. In addition, he had the divine dragon furnace to refine elixirs that could replenish his elemental energy. 3 days of consumption. Yi Qing Luo was still able to hold on, but as time went on, to Yi Qing Luo, it was getting more and more strenuous. After all, she was still a human. As for the Purgatory Tower, it was just an illusory thing. There would not be any life forms. It was until the 4th day when Yi Qing Luo finally succeeded in clearing the stage as she fell onto the ground in exhaustion. The floor of the Purgatory Tower hadn't been cleaned yet. There were corpses and blood everywhere. It dyed Yi Qing Luo's clothes red. Yi Qing Luo couldn't be bothered. She just wanted to rest. However, she had just closed her eyes. Old Man Song's joyful voice entered her ears. "Little girl, congratulations on passing the 3rd floor of the Purgatory Tower!" After some time, He didn't hear any response from Yi Qing Luo. Old Man Song's spirit body floated outside the Purgatory Pagoda. Girl, what are you doing in there? Why isn't he out yet? Yi Qing Luo still didn't reply. Old Man Song's expression suddenly became serious. His spirit body quickly rushed into the Purgatory Pagoda. He saw the young girl lying in a pool of blood. The girl's entire body was battered and exhausted. Her entire body was dyed red with blood. Her eyes were closed and she was motionless. This scene shocked Old Man Song until his heart almost jumped out of his throat. He speedily flew to Yi Qing Luo's side as his eyes were filled with worry. Lass Luo. Lass Luo. He wanted to carry Yi Qing Luo, but the white fog-like hand was unable to touch Yi Qing Luo. He was just a spiritual body that could not embrace a human in its arms. Cauldron Dragon! Cauldron Dragon! Old Man Song clenched his fists and flew towards the direction of the divine dragon cauldron at lightning speed. Do you have any elixirs in your cauldron that can heal internal injuries and replenish profound strength? The patterns on the body of the cauldron moved slightly. One pill. It floated above the cauldron. The golden light caused the entire interior of the azure dew bracelet to be extremely bright. The pill slowly floated into Old Man Song's illusory palm. Old Man Song couldn't touch humans, but he could touch everything within the azure dew bracelet. Holding the pill, Old Man Song returned to the 3rd floor of the Purgatory Tower. Luo girl, I got a divine grade medicinal pill from Cauldron Dragon. Eat it. Old Man Song spoke extremely quickly as he rushed to Yi Qing Luo's side. But in the next instant, the girl who was lying in a pool of blood was now sitting on the ground. He rubbed his eyes with one hand. He covered his mouth with the other and yawned. Hearing Old Man Song's voice, the young girl tiredly blinked her eyes and looked at him. Old Man Song, what are you yelling about? I almost fell asleep and you woke me up. When I crawled up, you were gone. As she spoke, she let out another long yawn. Old Man Song. Chapter 2456. Old Man Song decisively turned and left. Yi Qing Luo's nose twitched as she smelled a strong medicinal fragrance. Her eyes lit up as she quickly stood up from the ground. Old Man Song, what did you just say? Divine grade pill? The grades of elixirs that she had heard of were low grade, middle grade, and high grade. There was actually a divine grade. As an alchemist, Yi Qing Luo was naturally very interested in pills. Old Man Song didn't even turn his head. Since you're not dead, don't waste Cauldron Dragon's pill. Old Man Song, don't. Yi Qing Luo chased up and held onto his arm, acting coquettishly. I'll put it in the profound phoenix ring for backup. Absolutely won't waste it. Her holding naturally wasn't really holding on to his spiritual body. Old Man Song glanced sideways at her and snorted coldly. You didn't even tell me when you finished. Do you really think I can be frightened just because I'm a spiritual body? Yi Qing Luo obediently apologized and pacified him in various ways. Old Man Song was originally unhappy because he was frightened by Yi Qing Luo. Very quickly, Yi Qing Luo succeeded in pacifying him. Old Man Song looked at the exhausted girl and threw the pill into her hand. All right, get out and rest. I've been accompanying you outside for a few days. My spiritual body is about to collapse from exhaustion. She withdrew her divine sense from the azure dew bracelet. Yi Qing Luo opened her eyes. The feeling of exhaustion instantly swept over her body. Even lifting her arm felt very strenuous. Yi Qing Luo closed her eyes again. She was about to make up for her sleep and rest, but there was a knocking sound outside the door. Sister Luo, are you there? Yi Qing Luo recognized the girl's crisp voice the moment she heard it. It was Miao Yi. She yawned, pressed the space between her eyebrows, and sat up against the headboard. I'm here. Hearing the response, Miao Yi pushed the door open and quickly ran to Yi Qing Luo's bedside. Sister Luo, something happened. Miao Yi's voice was somewhat trembling. Her eyes were also red like she had just cried. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows knitted slightly. Her tiredness also dissipated a bit. What happened? I personally handed the letter you gave me to Grandma Bu. After Grandma Bu read it, she asked me to take her back to the Bu family village. As Miao Yi spoke, she began to sob softly. I thought that Grandma Bu was homesick, so I personally brought her to the Bu family village. But Granny Bu went to the Bu family village. After meeting with Grandpa Bu, the two of them stayed in the house and talked about something. Then Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu disappeared. He won't see you. Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed. They are both ordinary elderly people. How could they possibly disappear for no reason? I don't know. I searched the entire Bu family village, but I couldn't find Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu. Miao Yi's tears rolled down her cheeks. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased tightly as she pondered deeply for a moment. Miao Yi anxiously tugged Yi Qing Luo's arm. Sister Luo, could Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu have been brought away by the Miao tribe? No. Yi Qing Luo shook her head firmly. Third Elder Miao had already sworn an oath, so he would definitely not dare to violate it. He would absolutely not allow the Miao tribe to kidnap Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu. Suddenly, Yi Qing Luo thought of something as she immediately lifted the blanket and jumped off the bed. Go to the Miao tribe! I'm afraid. Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu have gone to the Miao tribe. Grandma Bu had originally brought her son and daughter-in-law along with her grandchildren to Qingyue City. Miao Yi only mentioned that Grandma Bu's grandchildren were beaten to death by Yuan Kuang. Then son and daughter-in-law, why weren't they by Grandma Bu's side? When Grandma Bu returned to the Bu family village, she had a private conversation with Grandpa Bu. Chapter 2457. Miao Tribe? Why? Didn't the Miao people take Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu away? Miao Yi sucked in a cold breath. Because Yi Qing Luo said that it wasn't the Miao people who captured the Bu family's two elders. It was the Bu family's two elders who had gone to the Miao tribe. Both of them were ordinary people, and they were already in their 50s. He went to the Miao tribe just like that. How could they leave the Miao tribe alive? Or perhaps, from the very beginning, the Bu family's two elders never planned to leave this place alive? Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed slightly. If I didn't guess wrongly, Grandma Bu's son and daughter-in-law should have been killed by the Miao people. As for how Grandma Bu was able to escape the Miao people's pursuit and bring her grandson and granddaughter to Qingyue City, she must have known the truth behind her son and daughter-in-law's murder. Miao Yi's face paled. She stood up abruptly and staggered a little because of her hasty movements. What's the matter? Yi Qing Luo dressed herself neatly and squinted her eyes at Miao Yi. Miao Yi's face was pale as she shook her head, helplessly. No. I'm just worried about Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu. I'll go to the Miao tribe first. Inform Peach to give Xiao Wu and Mao Mao a map of the Miao tribe. Yi Qing Luo didn't wait for Miao Yi to continue as she had already walked out of the room. Miao Yi clenched her fists tightly as a trace of struggle flashed across her eyes. Then, as if he had made up his mind, he quickly rushed out of the room and headed for Peach's room. The most luxurious restaurant in the city was the Peach Blossom Restaurant. At this moment, there was a group of 5 people who were travel-worn. No matter where these 5 people went, they were the most eye-catching existences. 3 men and 2 women. Men all had their own styles. Even if one of them was an unprepossessing man, the aura he exuded was so unique. The women each had their own merits, and they were all charming and charming. Little Fool was trained by Peach, so he was very good at reading people's expressions. As soon as he saw the 5 of them, he stepped forward and smiled widely. "Sir, please come in. Please come in." The 5 of them followed the waiter and found a good spot in the lobby. The location was not bad. It was just that it was too eye-catching. The waiter didn't know how to do business. The 5 of them sat in the restaurant. it would more or less attract a lot of guests. Perhaps the 5 of them had traveled through the night and were very tired, so they did not say much. As soon as they sat down, the charming woman said, "Waiter, quickly bring us a few pots of good tea and a table of your restaurant's best dishes." "All right, sir, I'll go right away." The waiter smiled, his eyebrows arched, and he quickly went to the back hall. Soon, other waiters brought up the bowls and chopsticks. At this time, it could be considered the peak period of the restaurant. The restaurant was filled with all sorts of people from the pugilistic world. It was also a channel for news to spread, not to mention that it was the day when the Nirvana Realm's cultivators were rushing over to the Joy City to attend the sect leader's birthday banquet. The entire restaurant was extremely noisy. Just then, he heard someone discussing the gossip of the past few days. "Speaking of that Lady Yi, she's a rare beauty that only appears once in 100 years." The person at the next table couldn't help but gasp in admiration. Chapter 2458. If you say that you don't know who that Lady Yi is in Chinua City, then you'll have come for nothing. When the man saw that many people had gathered around his table, he stood up proudly and placed one of his legs on the stool. His spittle flew everywhere as he spoke. When that Lady Yi first came to Chinua City, she had a conflict with the little overlord of Chinua City, who is also the only son of Battle King General, young Prince Yuan Kwang. Not only did she humiliate the young prince in front of everyone, she even took the opportunity to poison him, and our young princess didn't manage to gain any advantage from Miss Yi, the young prince of Battle King General's family. That woman is so bold. Is that woman too confident? Or is there something wrong with her brain? Countless listeners were astonished. They came from different continents. How could they not have heard about Battle King General? When they heard that someone dared to hurt the young prince in Chinua City, Battle King's territory, they could not believe it. You might not believe me, but not long ago, Lady fought with our North Continent's little Princess Lingling and East Continent's little Princess Lingling. When the man saw someone refuting him, he immediately said, "But they fought in Peach Blossom Restaurant." Peach Blossom Restaurant was almost demolished. As he spoke, he pointed at the few newcomers around him. "You've heard of the 2 little princesses, right? Those 2 little princesses can't be said to be particularly powerful, but they're still Xian cultivators. However, they were beaten by Miss Yi to the point of spitting blood in an instant. Beat up the princesses of 2 continents in front of everyone? Where did that woman come from? How could she still be alive after beating up the princesses? Such a fierce woman. Could she be extremely ugly?" The man shook his head. "Although her looks, she's not a top beauty, but her temperament is out of this world. Even if a fairy descended from the heavens, she won't be as outstanding as her." More and more people gathered around the table next to them. The 5 people sitting at the table next to them frowned slightly. Coincidentally, the waiter came forward and served the dishes. Seeing the liveliness at the table next to her, she hurriedly smiled and said, "Guests, please forgive us." The guest has great respect for Miss Yi and often tells stories here. If you don't like it, just pretend that he is telling stories and add to the atmosphere. The delicate lady propped her chin up with one hand and glanced at the man who kept bragging about Miss Yi. The Miss Yi that he's talking about, who exactly is she? This, I don't know either, but it is indeed as the storyteller said. She is an extraordinary woman. The waiter smiled. They looked at each other. Miss Yi? Surnamed Yi? On the first day he arrived at Chinua City, he was already arguing with the young prince. He even fought with various princesses. This style, why was it that the more he listened, the more it sounded like their family's Qing Luo? Jin Zi, do you think? The person they are talking about, is it Qing Luo? The delicate lady hugged the ordinary-looking man's arm. The man lowered his head, his eyes filled with gentleness. From the way you do things, it does seem like it, but Qing Luo's looks have always been outstanding. Qing Luo will change her looks. The girl in pink Lolita attire blinked her empty eyes and said word by word. Chapter 2459. The youngster got up and was about to walk towards the crowd. Young Master Mo, a cold voice sounded. The man in black, who was sitting beside the youngster, looked at the youngster and said, "Don't cause trouble." "Ah woo. I am such a gentle and elegant young master. Do I look like someone who will cause trouble?" The youngster in white raised his eyebrows, and the smile on his lips became more and more demonic. The few people rolled their eyes at him. They tacitly looked away and ignored him. These 5 people, weren't they Zhou Mo, Gui Wu, Qiao Jin, Yan Xiao Yi and Mo Yuing had come all the way from the West Continent? Zhou Mo thought that there must be something wrong with these people's eyes. They couldn't see his gentleness and elegance. He patted his sleeves and walked over. The table next to him was obviously crowded, but for some reason, when Zhou Mo walked over, the crowded customers automatically made way for him. It was as if they were moved away by an invisible force. At that moment, the restaurant fell into silence. Everyone's eyes were focused on Zhou Mo. In their eyes flashed a trace of amazement and astonishment. Zhou Mo walked directly to the storyteller, raised his hand, and gently knocked on the table. "Can you tell me the details of the Miss Yi you mentioned just now?" That person was frightened by Zhou Mo. His face turned pale, and he stared at Zhou Mo in astonishment. Zhou Mo's smile became more gentle and modest. "Don't misunderstand. That Miss Yi is very likely to be our friend." That person moved his lips in fear. The youngster in front of him, who was as demonic as a fox, indeed looked like the same kind of person as Miss Yi. Then he looked at the table of the youngster. Although they all smiled very gently, however, he could still feel the powerful aura that these people exuded. That person was still hesitating whether he should tell them about Miss Yi or not. Zhou Mo had already taken out a bag of silver coins. "We just want to know about the specific things about Miss Yi." The bag of silver coins rattled. From the sound of it, there were at least a few hundred silver coins. That person's eyes lit up slightly. As the saying goes, money makes the world go round. Very quickly, the man recounted everything that had happened to Miss Yi recently. After receiving the silver pouch, he took out a silver coin and bit into it. The expression on that person's face became excited. "Oh yes, Miss Yi is quite familiar with the boss of this restaurant. Just now I saw the boss and Miss Ye's 2 companions rushing out. I vaguely heard them saying that they were going to the Miao tribe to save Miss Yi." "The Miao tribe?" Zhou Mo narrowed his eyes. "Save Miss Yi. I don't know what exactly happened, but if it's Miss Yi, even if it's the Miao, they can definitely escape unscathed." Before the man could finish speaking, he saw Zhou Mo turn around and return to his 4 companions. The few of them heard the Miao people and the word save. He didn't look tired at all. Yan Xiao Yi threw a bag of money into the waiter's hand. "Help us look after this table of good dishes. We'll continue when we come back." With that, the 5 of them rushed out of the restaurant. They had just arrived at the entrance of the restaurant. Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind. "I know where the Miao Stockade Village is." Chapter 2460. Miao Stockade Village. Yi Qing Luo's figure swiftly traversed the roofs, which were filled with exotic styles. Her sharp eyes scanned through everything below. The people in the Miao Stockade Village mainly used Miao Miao's venomous spells and weren't too concerned about the cultivation of profound energy. Because of this, no one detected Yi Qing Luo's presence. But even so, Yi Qing Luo was still extremely cautious and didn't dare to be careless. Old Man Tsang told her in her mind, there are various kinds of venomous worms around the Miao Stockade Village. If you accidentally disturb those venomous worms, the venomous worms will give off an alarm, and by then, all the people in the Miao Stockade Village will be alarmed. Yi Qing Luo released her perception. Sensing the Miao Stockade Village, that place with people was the noisiest. The surroundings were filled with venomous worms. She wondered if Elder T and Grandma had disturbed the surrounding venomous worms when they came to the Meow Stockade Village, and if they were hurt by them. Ordinary people like the Tubu elders. It was highly possible that they would be discovered by the guards the minute they got close to the Meow Stockade Village. If that was the case, at least it could ensure that the Tubu elders would not be hurt by the venomous worms. The Meow people would not kill them before they figured out the reason why the Tubu elders ran over to the Meow Stockade Village. She only hoped that she could make it in time. Third Elder, what do you mean? Those two intruders are from the Boo family village. Why can't we kill them? Suddenly, an enraged voice sounded in his ears. Yi Qingluo was stunned when she heard the address, Third Elder. Her figure swiftly moved towards the direction of the voice. Nearing one of the stockade village, she saw two figures standing at the open door. One of them was the Third Elder Meow, whom she had met at the Boo family village. Opposite him was another middle-aged man, wearing the same patterned robe as Third Elder Meow. Apparently, he was one of the Meow elders. Third Elder Meow's face sunk. Fifth Elder, if we kill those two Boo family members, will the traitor we are looking for appear? Since the traitor disappeared in the Boo family village, then the village is definitely related to the traitor. Rather than killing those two old fellows, why not keep them alive to lure the traitor out? Fifth Elder Meow didn't believe it at all. Ever since you came back from the Boo family village, you have been behaving strangely. Did the Boo family village give you some benefits? They're just a bunch of old and weak trash. What benefits can they give me? Third Elder Meow spat. I'm thinking of a way to retrieve the Meow tribe's ancient goo worm. What is it? Fifth Elder Meow furrowed his brows. I went to the Boo family village, killed them, and robbed their things, but the people of the Boo family village refused to let go. That traitor also refused to appear. If the hard way didn't work, then I would use the soft way. Aren't those old fellows kind-hearted? I treat them so well, and let them treat me as a hero who saves the world. If I want to know something, why won't they obediently tell me? Third Elder Meow glanced at Fifth Elder Meow disdainfully. Why don't you think of a better way? Fifth Elder Meow's mouth was wide open, and he immediately shut it. All the words were stuck in his throat. You spared the lives of the villagers. Is it really just because of this? Fifth Elder Meow looked at him suspiciously. Third Elder Meow said frankly, What else do you think? Without waiting for Fifth Elder Meow to reply, he impatiently continued, All right, I'll leave the Boo family village's matters to you in the future. I don't care about anything else. Chapter 2461. Don't. Third Elder Meow. Fifth Elder Meow panicked. He immediately caught up with Third Elder Meow and pulled him back. I'm overthinking. Just follow your plan to find the traitor. I won't ask any more questions. Third Elder Meow snorted and shook off his hand. Although he still looked angry, but at least he had no intention of leaving. Fifth Elder Meow heaved a sigh of relief. Going to the Boo family village to find the traitor. Whoever accepted it would be unlucky. Who knew where the traitor had gone? Every time the patriarch asked about this matter, he realized that there was no progress in the matter. Third Elder Meow would always be the one to suffer. He must have been kicked in the head by a donkey to be in charge of the Boo family village. Seeing that Third Elder Meow had no intention of letting go of the matter, Fifth Elder Meow was worried that Third Elder Meow would take the opportunity to push the blame onto him. He hurriedly left the village. Third Elder Meow stood where he was and remained silent for a long time, until Fifth Elder Meow's aura completely disappeared. Third Elder Meow placed his hand on his chest and gasped for breath. His feigned seriousness and earnestness collapsed in an instant. He took a deep breath and walked into the village. If this happens a few more times, I won't be able to hold it in. Third Elder Meow closed the door of the village and turned around. When his gaze landed on the red-robed figure that had appeared behind him at some point in time, he was completely stupefied. The girl's face was beautiful, and the corners of her mouth were curled up in an extremely faint smile. Her long and narrow eyes were slightly raised, as if they were embellished with luminous pearls. They were extremely bright. It was a beautiful picture that could make people sink into it. However, this caused an expression of fear to appear on Third Elder Meow's face. He staggered back a few steps. His body hit the door that had just been closed, making a loud sound. This sound brought Third Elder Meow back to his senses. His hands immediately trembled as he quickly fiddled with the door lock, trying to escape. Behind him, the girl smiled faintly. She had no intention of stopping him. "Well, go out and call all the people of the Meow tribe here. I will personally tell everyone that you, Third Elder Meow, are now my people." "You!" Third Elder Meow's hand paused. He quickly turned around and pressed his back against the door. "You're talking nonsense. This elder. How could this elder possibly be one of your people? If you protect the Boo family village for me, doesn't that mean you're one of my people?" Yi Ching Luo's body slumped against the back of the chair as she squinted her eyes lazily. Earlier, wasn't Third Elder Meow painstakingly fabricating a story to protect old T and Grandma Boo's lives? Third Elder Meow's face turned pale, and he clenched his fists. "You forced me to." He used the most insidious method of the Meow tribe to swear a poisonous oath. If he didn't protect the people of the Boo family village, he would die a more painful and unsightly death than the people of the Boo family. All of this was because of that bitch. The minute Third Elder Meow recalled that he was duped by Yi Ching Luo, agreeing to her various unreasonable requests, his heart surged with endless anger. "Cheap hussy! That day, you actually dared to play tricks on this elder. How dare you appear in front of this elder? This elder is going to kill you." Yi Ching Luo was still smiling as she remained unmoved. "Where are old T and Grandma locked up? Bring me there." Chapter 2462. The smile in Yi Ching Luo's eyes gradually turned cold. "I said bring me over." Her pink lips moved slightly. Word by word, he spat out each and every word extremely clearly. Third Elder Meow's fury was extinguished by Yi Ching Luo's cold chi. A chill ran down his spine, and his body trembled uncontrollably. You, Third Elder Meow spoke. Even his voice was trembling. His calves were shaking. In Third Elder Meow's heart, the fear and intense uneasiness towards Yi Ching Luo became more and more obvious. He really could not understand. How could this girl have such a powerful aura? Perhaps it was the patriarch who was standing here. They all had to lower their heads before this young lady's powerful aura. "Yi Luo, haven't you had enough of toying with me?" Third Elder Meow clutched his head as he was on the verge of breaking down. "I've already told you everything I know, and I've done everything you asked of me. Now that we've arrived at the Meow Stockade Village, are you still unwilling to let me go?" At this moment, Third Elder Meow looked like he had aged more than 10 years. Yi Ching Luo looked at Third Elder Meow, who was playing the pitiful card, as she expressed that her heart wasn't affected at all. "Who said I'm playing with you? Are you not playing with me? I almost collapsed in the toilet that day," Third Elder Meow said while gnashing his teeth. Yi Ching Luo's brows rose as her gaze swept across him. "You'll believe whatever I say." What do you mean?" Third Elder Meow's face paled. "These few days have you been having trouble sleeping at night? Sweating profusely, especially at night? Sometimes cold, sometimes hot?" Yi Ching Luo asked with a smile. Third Elder Meow's face turned even paler. What do you mean? What I mean is..." Yi Ching Luo stood up slowly. Her actions were elegant and dignified. "I am not playing with you." Third Elder Meow was so shocked that he sat on the ground. The chill on his back had already been covered by cold sweat. His whole body was trembling. The muscles on his face kept twitching. His mouth twitched so much that he couldn't even speak clearly. "You've not fooling around with him? In other words, that day, she had indeed poisoned him. The so-called diarrhea was just to make him lower his guard. F***CK. He might as well be toying with him. Third Elder Meow's heart was in a mess because of Yi Qing Luo, and he really didn't know if he should believe Yi Qing Luo this time round. However, he cherished his life. Even if he knew that there was a possibility that this was Yi Qing Luo purposely making use of the poisoning incident that day to tease him again. However, it could also be true he was not willing to bet his life on this possibility. Now, will Third Elder Meow bring me over to Elder Tea? Yi Qing Luo saw Third Elder Meow's expression. Hence, she asked him smilingly. Third Elder Meow's face twitched. He gritted his teeth and said, yes. Yi Qing Luo nodded in satisfaction. Good boy, after I bring Elder Tea and Grandma Boo out safely, I will give you the antidote. A cold glint flashed across Third Elder Meow's eyes. You won't lie to me? Then do you believe it? Yi Qing Luo asked with a smile. Third Elder Meow clenched his fists tightly. Now he had no choice but to believe it. He could only choose to believe. Change into the Meow female attendant's attire. I will bring you over. Third Elder Meow said as he tensed his body and walked towards the inner hall of the village. Very quickly, he took out a set of clean female attendant attire, new. In order to move more conveniently, Yi Qing Luo didn't put on airs. Chapter 2463. Yi Qing Luo disguised herself as a maid and followed behind Third Elder Meow towards their destination. The Meow village's terrain was extremely complicated, and near each of the more important villages, there would be traps set up. What's more, the surroundings of each place was a nest of goo worms. Yi Qing Luo indicated that she was considered lucky that she didn't get infected after wandering around the Meow village for so long. Turning left and right, as Yi Qing Luo walked, she overlapped the surrounding terrain with a map provided by Peach in her mind. After a while, Third Elder Meow stopped in front of an extremely solemn and strange, huge village. That huge village was about the size of a courtyard. It was filled with a foreign style. There were 2 strong guards standing at the entrance. Third Elder Meow. Did they confess? Third Elder Meow's voice was calm as he asked coldly. No, the guard replied. The patriarch came but left very quickly. He asked me to pass a message to Third Elder Meow to investigate the matter of the traitor. It's the last 3 days. If we are unable to get the whereabouts of the traitor from the 2 Boo villagers, we will slaughter you and the entire Boo village. The guard's voice was very flat, without any extra emotions. Third Elder Meow's expression stiffened as his brows furrowed into a ball. The patriarch personally gave the order? The guard looked straight forward. Yes, I understand. Third Elder Meow snorted coldly as he threw the pendant on his waist fiercely and strode into the village. Yi Qing Luo immediately followed. She was dressed in a maid's attire, and the guard thought she was Third Elder Meow's maid, so he didn't stop her. The 2 of them stepped into the village. The village was extremely quiet. There was a thick atmosphere of terror. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she lifted her eyes and looked around. The surrounding environment. The village was huge and spacious, but there were only a few luminous pearls which illuminated a few corners. No matter how bright the luminous pearls were, it couldn't overcome the spaciousness of the village. Because of that, the village was very dark. Yi Qing Luo could vaguely see the strange and terrifying totem on the 2 sides of the wall. The reason why it was too dark, Yi Qing Luo couldn't see it clearly. She could vaguely see a pair of green, bell-like eyes glaring at her fiercely. Her heart trembled. The profound jade heart in his chest inexplicably surged with a feeling of being burned by raging flames. What was going on ever since he carried the heart-calming bead with him? Her profound jade heart had never experienced this sort of abnormal activity before. Yi Qing Luo wanted to suppress this feeling. However, That scorching heat burned even more fiercely, as though it wanted to burn Yi Qing Luo entirely into ashes. Oh, Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but let out a muffled groan. Third Elder Miao, who was in front, sensed something amiss with Yi Qing Luo and immediately turned his head back. He saw Yi Qing Luo holding onto her chest, her face pale and on the verge of collapsing. You. Third Elder Miao's expression froze. Hey, are you all right? This was the Hmong stockade village. The patriarch's spiritual energy is connected to this place. Don't cause trouble. Yi Qing Luo shook her head as her breathing quickened. The fire was still burning in his heart. Third Elder Miao sensed that something wasn't right with Yi Qing Luo and walked over in an attempt to support her. When his palm touched Yi Qing Luo's shoulder, a scorching pain assaulted the center of his palm. Third Elder Miao was so shocked that he immediately loosened his hand. Raising his hand, his palm was flushed red, as though he had been scalded. Chapter 2464. The scorching heat was still persisting, as though there was magma in her heart, crashing against it nonstop. Her eyes started to blur. Her petite body swayed slightly. Relying on her willpower, she tried her best to raise her eyes. The wall. The totem on the wall, what is it? When she lifted her eyes, Yi Qing Luo's eyes were completely fixed on that wall. She could see it clearly. The pair of jade-green eyes on the wall sparkled with a treacherous glint. She could even see clearly that pair of jade-green eyes winking at her. Following that, she saw the surrounding scene, became clearer and clearer. A big bloody mouth, as though it was sticking out a scarlet tongue, as though it was roaring. Yi Qing Luo even seemed to hear the roar of a wild beast. That was... What kind of wild beast's roar? Why did it sound extremely familiar? But she couldn't figure out what kind of wild beast's roar was it. Yi Qing Luo's mind was in a mess. That scorching feeling in her chest slowly surged up to her eyes. The totem on the wall became clearer and clearer. Yi Luo. Suddenly, she heard Third Elder Miao's terrified roar. His hand, once again, tugged on her wrist. Even though he was being scorched, he still didn't let go. Even though Yi Qing Luo's mind was no longer clear, but she could still feel it clearly. Third Elder Miao's fear and anxiety. He pulled her, speedily sprinting towards a direction. The speed was so fast, as though there was some dreadful beast chasing behind. At the instant when she was pulled by Third Elder Miao, that scene in front of Yi Qing Luo instantly dissipated. Her body staggered. Perhaps it was because of the scorching heat from the profound jade heart, which made Yi Qing Luo's physical strength unable to take it. She was easily pulled by Third Elder Miao to an even darker corner. At the instant when Yi Qing Luo was forcefully pulled away, her peripheral vision once again shot towards that wall. Whatever bloody mouth, whatever wild beast's roar, it seemed as though it had never happened. Only those two. His eyes, which were glowing with a faint green light, met her gaze without blinking for a moment. Ah, at the corner. Third Elder Miao stopped in his tracks as he released Yi Qing Luo's hand and panted heavily. Yi Luo, what's the matter with you? Do you know that just now you were almost discovered by the patriarch? He raised his hand in pain. Are you possessed by the devil? Why is my body so hot? Even my hands are getting burnt. As he spoke, he spread out his hands. But when he looked at his wrinkled hands, there wasn't a single trace of being burned by the raging fire. Third Elder Miao widened his eyes and looked at his hands in disbelief. Just now he clearly felt that a layer of his skin was about to be scalded off. How could nothing have happened to him? However, no matter how Third Elder Miao rubbed his palms, that burning sensation made him feel like he was dreaming. Both of his hands were intact, without any scars. Yi Qing Luo leaned against the wall, feeling weak all over. She stared fixedly at Third Elder Miao, who was rubbing his palms continuously. Her breathing was slightly ragged. It wasn't just Third Elder Meow's hand that was fine. Her profound jade heart also seemed to have returned to normal, the feeling of being burned by raging flames, as though it had been extinguished in an instant. What on earth was going on? Chapter 2465. Yi Qing Luo's heart tightened. Just now, did you talk to me? It should be the totem on the wall that caused your profound heart jade to react. Old man Tsang guessed. Soon after, he said thoughtfully, looks like the Miao Stockade village is still hiding many secrets. Yi Qing Luo recalled the scene on the wall earlier. The eyes of the beast. The cry of the beast. Inexplicably, he felt a sense of familiarity. Why did I have such a huge reaction? So much so that even your consciousness had no way to connect to mine. Yi Qing Luo thought about it and felt that the totem was too strange. Her connection with Old Man Tsang. It depended on the spiritual energy and consciousness of both parties. Old Man Tsang mused for a moment and shook his head with some uncertainty. This old man is also not too sure. You only saw that pair of eyes, and this old man also only saw that pair of eyes. Before seeing the complete totem, this old man is also unable to determine just what exactly is the cause of your abnormality. Pausing, Old Man Tsang's voice deepened a bit. The only thing this old man can be certain of is that totem possesses an extremely formidable power that transcends the balance of the Nirvana realm. For you, it's still too much of a stretch. No wonder Old Man Tsang said that there were many secrets hidden in the Miao Stockade village. She and Old Man Tsang had not seen the totem completely, so no matter how much they guessed, it was useless. It would be better to directly ask Third Elder Miao, who was in the know. As she thought about this, she retracted her divine sense and looked at the person in front of her. Third Elder Miao, that totem, before he could finish. Third Elder Miao's expression suddenly changed. He speedily stretched out his hand, trying to cover Yi Qing Luo's mouth. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased as she moved backwards to evade. Yi Luo, that is the taboo of the Miao tribe. Don't mention it again. Third Elder Miao spoke with a solemn expression. His brows were filled with anxiety and unease. Totem? Taboo. I forgot to remind you just now. Don't look around when you enter the Miao Stockade cave, especially the things on the walls. Don't look at them with your eyes. The third elder of the Miao Stockade cave continued. His voice was filled with urgency. You seem to have lost your soul and wanted to touch that wall. Once you touch that wall, the chief will immediately know that you are in the Miao Stockade village. At that time, not only will you not be able to save the two old men from the Bu family village, but you'll also have to hand yourself over here. Miao Village Cave. Yi Qing Luo murmured this name. Why can't I mention that picture? She had just spat out a word when she was stopped by Third Elder Miao's gaze. Third Elder Miao's face was pale. He was almost unable to catch his breath. It was obvious that he had been given quite a fright. That is our Miao tribe's taboo. Not only are you not allowed to see or touch it, you can't even mention it. Third Elder Miao's solemn look made Yi Qing Luo unable to continue asking. The taboo of the Miao tribe. It was a taboo that Third Elder Miao was so afraid of. Even if she forced Third Elder Miao to answer, he was afraid that Third Elder Miao would not reveal anything. Do you still want to save the two old guys in the Bu family village? Third Elder Miao saw Yi Qing Luo not replying, and his face revealed an impatient expression. The longer we drag, the easier it is for the chief to find out. I don't want to be treated as the Miao tribe's traitor. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath and kept the thoughts in her mind as she nodded. Let's go. Chapter 2466. This time, Yi Qing Luo didn't attempt to use her mental power to explore the totem on the wall. That pair of jade green eyes. Now that she recalled it, she felt a chill running down her spine. After walking for about a cup of tea's time, in the quiet village, a calm and indifferent voice was heard. Who are you? Third third Elder Meow replied. A ray of light struck, instantly lighting up the pitch-black surroundings. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she looked over. She saw a door in front of her opened. There were 2 guards standing at the door. As compared to the guards she saw outside the Meow village, their abilities were obviously stronger. Third Elder Meow took a step forward. Yi Qing Luo immediately followed. The 2 of them, one in front and one behind, stepped into that door. With a bam, the door was shut. Yi Qing Luo's heart tightened slightly as she glanced at third Elder Meow's back view with an inexplicable, ominous premonition. But at the next moment, she heard third Elder Meow's impatient voice. The 2 old fellows from the Boo village are there! Yi Qing Luo's thoughts were interrupted. She looked towards the direction which third Elder Meow was pointing at. Here it was a place similar to a prison cell. There were prison cells all around. Each prison cell was separated by iron bars, and at the end of the prison cell on 2 wooden stakes hung Elder T and Grandma Boo. They were covered in blood as they hung on the wooden stakes, as though they had fainted. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased. She didn't lose her rationality and disregard everything. Instead, she first released her perception to ascertain that there was no one else's presence in this underground prison. Then she quickly walked past third Elder Meow and dashed towards Elder T and Grandma Boo. The 4 limbs of the Boo family's 2 elders were tied with iron chains. Their faces were devoid of any color. Their hair was messy, and they looked extremely disheveled. Seeing Elder T in front of her, Yi Qing Luo recalled a few days ago, when they were in the Boo village, Elder T was still so gentle, smiling at her benevolently. But now, it had become like this. She clenched her fists and quickly took out 2 healing and replenishing elixirs from the profound phoenix ring. She approached the wooden stake and carefully fed it to the 2 elders. The medicinal pills which Yi Qing Luo refined naturally had an extremely fast effect. After a while, the 2 Boo family elders gradually woke up and opened their eyes. Elder T was still in a trance. It took him a while to see the person in front of him clearly. His eyes widened in astonishment, and his voice was hoarse and harsh. "You! How could you, young lady?" Granny Boo had already woken up by now, and when she saw Yi Qing Luo's face, she went into a blank. As soon as they moved, the chains on his body made a clanking sound. They then remembered that they were tied up in the dungeon by the Meow people. "Little girl, what are you doing here?" Elder T's face turned pale. "This is the Meow tribe, little girl. I'll get you out of here." Yi Qing Luo stretched out her hand, and her fingertips knocked on the metal chains. "Where else are you injured? Can you still walk?" "Little girl, do you know what you are doing? This is the Meow tribe. How could you come here? The Meow tribe will not let you off." When Elder T heard that, his eyes turned red as he choked with sobs. "What ability do I have to trouble little girl to save me time and time again? Quickly leave before the Meow tribe people discover you. Quickly leave this place." Chapter 2467. Elder T's tears streamed down his face. Grandma Boo also cried out, "Young lady, hurry and leave. This is our own choice. We were too rash. We can't harm you." As she spoke, she choked with sobs. Her body was weak due to the torture she had suffered earlier. That iron chain was hanging Grandma Boo's hands tightly. She was in so much pain that her entire face was wrinkled, but she was afraid that Yi Qing Luo would be worried, so she didn't make a sound. "Young lady, you are still young. Don't bury your future here. Don't lose your life because of us 2 old fellows. Yi is a good lady. She won't blame you. Grandma Boo, don't talk anymore. Conserve your energy." Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly, comforting her. She walked to Grandma Boo's side and used one hand to support her, lending strength to Grandma Boo to ease the pain from the iron chain. "Young lady." Elder T choked with sobs as he tried to persuade. "Let me untie the iron chain for you first." Yi Qing Luo interrupted Elder T's voice. She had just tested the hardness of the iron chain. It was just an ordinary iron chain. It was rather easy to break these iron chains. Close your eyes, don't be afraid. Yi Qing Luo smiled gently. Her voice exuded a reassuring and convincing power. The Tubu elders wanted to say something, but after meeting Yi Qing Luo's resolute gaze, they still chose to close their eyes. Back in the Bu family village, Elder T knew that once this young lady decided on something, no one could change her mind. If they didn't want to be a burden to her, then they could only try their best to cooperate with her and try their best not to be a burden to her. Yi Qing Luo took a few steps back. Her eyes gradually turned sharp. Her fingers moved. A fiery red feather fan appeared in her palm. Profound energy was injected into the fan, and at this moment a bewitching red glow appeared, burning brightly. Kacha! A few crisp sounds were heard as the iron chains were cut off and fell onto the ground. The two Bu elders' bodies immediately sank. Yi Qing Luo supported them with each hand, letting them lean against the wooden pillar, sitting down to rest. After rescuing the two Bu elders from the iron chain, Yi Qing Luo's gaze turned towards the surroundings, surveying the surroundings. I'll bring you out of the Miao tribe first. We'll talk about the rest after we get out. As soon as she finished speaking, his gaze was fixed on a certain spot. His expression changed drastically. Third Elder Miao, how dare you scheme against me? Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed as a pair of sharp, charming eyes, like a sharp icicle, pierced directly towards Third Elder Miao, as she spat out a sentence while clenching her teeth. Her reaction could be considered very fast. The moment he sensed that something was wrong, he immediately bent down and hugged the Tubu family's elders. Then, with a single step, he flew towards Third Elder Miao. However, just at the moment when Yi Qing Luo leapt up, a loud bang shook the entire Hmong stockade village 3 times. Dong! Then a huge iron cage came crashing down. If Yi Qing Luo was alone, escaping from this iron cage was definitely not a problem. But in Yi Qing Luo's hands, there were 2 old men who were obviously exhausted. The moment the iron cage came crashing down, Yi Qing Luo knew that her discovery was too late. She decisively gave up on the idea of escaping with the Bu family's 2 elders, just at the moment when the iron cage came crashing down on their heads. She had already brought the 2 Bu elders back to the side of the wooden pillar. Chapter 2468. The iron cage that flickered with a cold light trapped the 3 of them inside. Young lady. The 2 Bu family elders were so shocked by the sudden turn of events that they couldn't recover from their shock. They stared blankly at the iron cage and stammered, "This? What is going on? Why is there an iron cage?" Grandma Bu's eyes widened in astonishment. She looked at the iron cage. Then she looked at Yi Qing Luo's gloomy expression. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Young lady, we've let you down. We've caused you to be trapped in the Miao tribe." "It's all right." Yi Qing Luo turned back to look at the 2 Bu elders, and the expression on her face became gentler. "Just treat it as me asking you to rest more. After you've rested enough and recovered your energy, we'll leave." Hada! A sudden ear-piercing laughter was heard from outside the iron cage. Third Elder Miao placed both his hands behind his back, totally different from the yes man in front of Yi Qing Luo earlier. "Trapped in the Miao stockade cave and you still want to leave? Ha ha ha! Seeing that you're so ignorant, this elder shall be merciful and tell you. The Miao stockade cave is not a place where you outsiders can come and go as you please." Third Elder Miao walked slowly to the iron cage with a complacent smile on his face. When the 2 Bu elders heard that, their bodies trembled violently as their faces were filled with guilt. Yi Qing Luo didn't even raise her head as she half squatted in front of the 2 Bu elders and took their pulse while sneering. Third Elder Meow, don't be too confident. If I want to leave, can you stop me? Third Elder Meow couldn't help but burst out laughing. Why don't you leave for this elder to see? Ha ha ha. As long as I hand you over to the clan leader, this elder will definitely be able to get rid of the mess in the Boo family village and obtain a respectable status. As though he was thinking of his future, Third Elder Meow's laughter became increasingly carefree and complacent. Yi Qing Luo turned a deaf ear to it. There wasn't a single trace of panic on her face. Only between his brows there was a hint of coldness, after confirming that the two Boo elders had not suffered any serious injuries. Yi Qing Luo heaved a sigh of relief and fed both of them another elemental energy pill as she comforted them warmly. Grandpa Boo, Grandma Boo, rest here and recover your energy. In a while, I'll bring you out. Young lady. Granny Boo held Yi Qing Luo's hand tightly. Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly, don't worry. After she finished speaking, she slowly stood up and faced Third Elder Meow. In that instant, the expression on her face became extremely domineering. From head to toe, he released an aura that looked down on everything. Third Elder Meow's maniacal laughter was abruptly stopped by Yi Qing Luo's imposing manner. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were calm as she fixed her gaze on him. Her pink lips curled upwards as she spoke in a chilly voice. Third Elder Meow's current fantasy, whether he has the life to fulfill it or not, is still a question. Third Elder Meow's face turned pale, but his expression quickly returned to normal. He coldly snorted in a rather pleased manner. You still want to use the matter of me being poisoned to deceive me? Do you really think this elder is a fool? Let you tease me again and again? Towards Yi Qing Luo, Third Elder Meow was filled with disgust and hatred from the bottom of his heart. It was Yi Qing Luo who made him lose his face in front of his subordinates. It was Yi Qing Luo who teased him time and time again, trampling on his pride. That cheap hussy who was full of lies. He didn't believe that there was any poison in his body or such nonsense. Chapter 2469. Yi Qing Luo laughed lowly. She raised her eyes curved, narrow, and charming. Whether I am deceiving you or not, you know it in your heart. Pausing for a moment, Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and pressed the glower flame fan against her pink lips as she continued. Actually, from the start, I really felt that you were rather silly, but now you're not that silly. At least, he knew how to take advantage of her confidence and scheme against her. He had been tricked. Yi Qing Luo wasn't particularly angry. She had indeed underestimated Third Elder Meow, believing that Third Elder Meow cherished his life. But he had overlooked it. The third elder of the Meow clan had been fooled by her in the Boo family village. He no longer believed her. Third Elder Meow's face turned slightly pale. He clenched his fists tightly and stared sharply at the young girl in the cage, who was smiling calmly. In his heart, there was a faint feeling of unease. Yi Luo was too calm, especially when those eyes, which seemed to be able to see through the soul, looked at him with a faint smile. He felt a sharp pain in his stomach. Every night, the feeling of sweating, sometimes cold, sometimes hot, seemed to attack his heart. Yi Luo had fed him that day in the Boo family village. Was it really poison? No, impossible. The Meow tribe's doctor has already checked on me. There is no poison in my body. This elder is not poisoned. Not knowing if it was to convince himself or to convince Yi Qing Luo, Third Elder Meow practically roared out this sentence. That's right. He wasn't poisoned. Dr. Meow did not find any toxins in his body. It must be this bitch who wanted to trick him and make him fall for it. Poochie! An unsuppressible chuckle escaped from Yi Qing Luo's mouth. She smiled and said, Then, did Meow find any clues about the poison in Miss Meow's body? Third Elder Meow opened his eyes wide, his countenance turned pale as he staggered several steps back. Yi Qing Luo continued to smile. Then, during that crazy period of time, was there any doctor who found any clues? It seems like even Miss Meow couldn't detect the poison in Little Prince's body with her goo worm. Third Elder Meow's body suddenly swayed. His legs began to wobble. His breathing also became a little hurried. He staggered backward. He muttered softly, "Impossible. Impossible. You're just scaring me. You're definitely playing with me." However, even if he brainwashed himself repeatedly, the expression on Third Elder Meow's face grew more and more frightened and panicked. "Yi Luo! Yi Luo!" He suddenly cried out Yi Qing Luo's name in panic and helplessness, as his eyes stared straight at Yi Qing Luo crazily. "This elder will let you out now. You give this elder the antidote." Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as she fanned herself with a languid look. "But I don't feel like going out now." Then she walked over to the Boo family's 2 elders and sat down. "The environment here is not bad. I will stay here for a while." Yi Luo, Third Elder Meow's face turned pale. He was flustered and anxious. The Meow Stockade Village's cave is the most taboo place in the Meow tribe. I let you out now and send you away from the Meow tribe. Give me the antidote." Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh out. Third Elder Meow really cherished his life. But did he really think that after this iron cage was put down, she could still leave easily? The Meow tribe's people were not fools. She already had no chance to leave quietly. Chapter 2470. Third Elder, I heard that you've already caught the person who trespassed into Meow tribe? A deep voice was heard coming from the entrance of the dungeon. Immediately following that, a middle-aged man walked over. That man's imposing manner was unleashed, carrying a trace of sharpness. When that man walked nearer to Third Elder Meow, Third Elder Meow's face turned as white as a piece of white paper. His entire body started to tremble violently. He plopped onto the ground as he stammered, "Patriarch, Patriarch." The person who came was the Meow tribe's patriarch, Meow Ishiong. Meow Ishiong was all smiles. Third Elder need not be so courteous. Third Elder Meow stood up apprehensively. He paid attention to Meow Ishiong's expression as he tried his best to calm his emotions. Looking at the patriarch's expression, he probably hadn't heard what he said about releasing Yi Luo. He couldn't afford to be flustered. Today, the patriarch had already seen Yi Luo locked up in the Meow tribe's dungeon. He had no other choice. No matter if he was poisoned by Yi Qing Luo, he had to stand on the Meow tribe's side. "Patriarch, this is the person who trespassed into Meow tribe, trying to save the 2 old fellows in the Boo family village." After he had made up his mind, Third Elder Meow decisively pointed at Yi Qing Luo. Meow Ishiong narrowed his eyes. He placed his hands behind his back as he walked nearer to the iron cage. When his gaze met the young lady's face, his expression suddenly congealed. "Yi Luo!" Yi Qing Luo lazily raised her eyelids as she squinted at Meow Ishiong, smiling as she spoke. "Meow tribe leader, long time no see." "Not long, not long." These words were said with clenched teeth, as though he was suppressing his anger. Third Elder Meow saw that the atmosphere between the 2 of them was not right, and realized that there was a grudge between the patriarch and Yi Luo, and it wasn't a small grudge. Third Elder Meow stood on the patriarch's side even more firmly. "Patriarch, the last time I lost in the Boo family village, it was because she blocked and protected the village. This time, she ran over to the Meow tribe to save these 2 people. This person must have a close relationship with the Boo family village, and there's a possibility that traitor's disappearance is related to her." "No, we don't know anything about traitors. This is only the 2nd time we've met this young lady. She was just being kind. She just couldn't bear to see us 2 old people get hurt. Let her go, let her go." Granny Boo struggled to stand up. Her wrinkled face was filled with tears. "I've kowtowed to you. I'll answer whatever you want to ask. Let this little girl go." Then Granny Boo's tottering body propped itself up wanting to kneel. Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and stopped her. He won't dare to do anything to us. You stay here and rest well. Ha! Miao Yixiong sneered, his eyes filled with disdain. Young lady, you sure talk big. Of course. Yi Qing Luo gently patted Grandma Bu's back, comforting her as she gave a faint smile. Your daughter's life is now in my hands. If you don't want your daughter to live on, then just go ahead and do it. Grandma Bu's expression changed. You. Miao Yixiong was so angry that his eyes were filled with rage. Yi Luo, what did you do to Rongrong? How could he not want Miao Rongrong to live? Miao Rongrong was his only hope now. She was the only candidate to be the Miao tribe's sacred maiden. But ever since Miao Rongrong escaped from the Battle King's residence, Miao Rongrong's body was getting weaker and weaker, even if it was those antidotes that Miao Rongrong brought back. Chapter 2471. Yi Qing Luo didn't even lift her eyelids. Speaking of eldest young Miss Miao. Miao Patriarch, the bottle of medicinal pills that eldest young Miss Miao snatched from me was something that I spent an entire month to refine, spending a huge amount of money to gather all the medicinal herbs. She paused as her lips curled into a mocking smile. I should settle this score with the Miao Patriarch. You poisoned Rongrong and still dare to ask me to settle this score for you? Miao Yixiong laughed in anger. Young lady, this is the Miao tribe and you're so arrogant in my territory. Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to leave this place alive? Yi Qing Luo finally raised her head. Her long and narrow eyes rose slightly as she shrugged her shoulders indifferently. It doesn't matter if I can leave the Miao tribe alive, but whether eldest Miss Miao can stay alive. Yi Luo. Miao Yixiong's imposing manner exploded, fierce and sharp, refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. His 5 fingers moved. A burst of dense, profound energy burst forth from his palm. Yi Qing Luo felt the ground shaking. Behind her, the 2 Bu elders' panicked cries could be heard. Yi Qing Luo turned around and saw the wooden stake that the 2 Bu elders were sitting on suddenly rose up slowly. Sharp arrows flew out from all directions of the iron cage, heading straight for the 2 old men on the wooden stakes. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned cold. Her feet tapped lightly and her body leaped up agilely. The glower flame fan in her hand suddenly opened up and slashed out a burst of dense, profound qi. Bam! The whirlwind created by the Xian qi knocked away all the sharp arrows. Yi Qing Luo's other hand immediately pulled the 2 Bu elders down from the wooden stake. Immediately, the 3 of them landed steadily on the ground, looking at the 2 old men who were still in a state of shock. Yi Qing Luo's face revealed a trace of anger. Her eyes were cold as her lips curled into a cold arc. Miao Patriarch, you will pay the price for what you did earlier. Miao Yixiong totally disregarded Yi Qing Luo's words. His gaze was sinister and malicious. Just based on the fact that you're trapped in my iron cage, with 2 burdens, you want me to pay the price? Really? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a devilish smile. At the same time, he spat out these 2 words lightly. A gush of horrifying power encircled Yi Qing Luo's surroundings, enveloping that young lady dressed in a long red dress, who was like a raging flame, tightly. The entire dungeon shook violently, causing the earth to quake and the mountains to sway. He could vaguely hear the sound of something falling to the ground. The smile on Miao Yixiong's face gradually froze. Yi Qing Luo let go of the 2 Bu elders and lowered her voice. Stand further away. We'll be able to leave soon. Yi Qing Luo intentionally set up a simple enchantment around the 2 Bu family elders. This was formed from her spiritual power. Naturally, the profound energy she released would not have any effect on the barrier. What do you want to do? Miao Yixiong sensed that something was wrong. This power was so strong that it made him feel somewhat oppressed. Of course, it's to make you pay the price. Yi Qingluo's red lips were alluring as she spat out one sentence at a time. His voice fell. Yi Qingluo leaped up. Dense dark force surged rapidly. Suddenly, like an exploding whirlpool, it landed on top of the iron cage. Bam! Bam, bam, bam! A series of collisions and the sound of things falling to the ground were heard. That iron cage which had trapped Yi Qingluo and the other two inside. Under Yi Qingluo's profound qi attack, it collapsed with a loud bang. Miao Yixiong was jolted back a few steps. Chapter 2472. The ground was filled with dust, and the iron bars were sent flying. Yi Qingluo lightly clapped her hands as her long and narrow eyes rose into a faint but cold arc. Now, Miao clan leader, how else do you think you can trap me? Miao Yixiong's malicious eyes stared fiercely at Yi Qingluo. His hands clenched into fists as his profound qi revolved around his body. Yi Qingluo's action of shattering the iron cage. It really gave him a huge shock, although he knew in his heart that Yi Qingluo's ability was very strong. But he had never thought that Yi Qingluo's ability was actually above his. This young lady, was she really like what she looked like on the surface? Just a 15-year-old young lady? What was her identity? Why did she go against the Miao clan time and time again? Miao Yixiong's gaze turned increasingly cold. In my Miao clan's territory, you think I can't trap you? He laughed coldly a few times. His sinister gaze slowly fell onto the two Bu elders behind Yi Qingluo. His smile became even colder. The Miao clan is not a place where you can come and go as you wish. Moreover, with those two burdens around, you can forget about leaving the Miao clan. The two Bu elders shivered. Then, bring it on, we can try. See if I have the ability to bring Grandpa Bu and Grandma Bu away from the Miao clan. Towards Miao Yixiong's threat, Yi Qingluo was totally unmoved as she met Miao Yixiong's gaze calmly, as her lips twitched in ridicule. Miao Yixiong's gaze turned colder. You won't give up until all hope is gone. I'd like to see how arrogant you can be. His words had just ended when Miao Yixiong took a few steps back. Then he called out loudly, Lord Yu, I'll have to trouble you. Lord Yu? Yi Qingluo's eyes flashed. In her mind, a figure suddenly flashed past. The next moment, she saw a tall man appearing in the dungeon. That man overlapped with the figure which flashed past Yi Qingluo's mind. Yi Qingluo's pupils suddenly contracted as shock flashed past her eyes. Yu Ji! The man in front of her wasn't he. Lanling Nuoz. Personal guard? She had once crossed hands with him at the Peach Blossom restaurant, and she was still not his match. That man called Yu Ji? Why would he appear in the Miao tribe? Ha ha ha. You didn't expect this, did you? Miao Yixiong looked at Yi Qingluo's astonished expression and burst into laughter. Young lady, do you really think that your ability is so strong that no one in the world can match you? Arrogance and confidence depend on the situation and the person. Miao Yixiong's laughter was filled with smugness and coldness. He felt a sense of exhilaration. He was the leader of the Miao tribe, but in the hands of a 15-year-old girl, he had repeatedly suffered losses. Now, he could finally suppress this little girl's arrogance. He would find Yu Ji, invite Yu Ji to the Miao tribe. It was to deal with Yi Qingluo. He learned from Miao Rongrong. The bodyguard brought by the East Wave County Lord, Lanling Nuo, was able to defeat Yi Luo easily. Therefore, he borrowed Yu Ji from Lanling Nuo. In the process of borrowing people from Lanling Nuo, Miao Yixiong also noticed some clues. Although on the surface, Yu Ji's identity was said to be Lanling Nuo's personal guard. But in fact, every time Lanling Nuo spoke, she had to look at Yu Ji's expression, especially when it concerned Yu Ji. Lanling Nuo appeared to be even more careful. Chapter 2473. Of course, who exactly was Yu Ji? Miao Yixiong did not mind. He only cared about whether Yu Ji could get the antidote out of Yi Luo. Nothing else mattered to him. However, there was one thing that puzzled Miao Yixiong. When he sincerely invited Yu Ji to come to the Miao tribe to help him solve his biggest problem, Yu Ji didn't even finish his words before directly rejecting him. But after that, when he and Lan Ling Nua talked and mentioned the name Yi Luo, Yu Ji actually changed his attitude and agreed to it immediately. Then, she followed him to the Miao tribe. Miao Yixiong had originally planned to bring Yu Ji to Yi Luo. If Yi Luo didn't listen to her, then let Yu Ji force Yi Luo to hand over the antidote. Who would have thought that Yi Luo would come to the Miao tribe alone for the sake of the 2 elders of the Bu family village? Coincidentally, Yu Ji was in the Miao tribe. This time, it could be said that Yi Luo had fallen into the tiger's den. Miao Yixiong recalled the scene of Yi Luo being tortured by Yu Ji, the scene of Yi Luo handing over the antidote and begging for mercy. The smile on Miao Yixiong's face grew even more smug. "Little girl, you're not Lord Nethery's match. You'd better surrender obediently." Standing behind Yu Ji, Miao Yixiong was full of confidence. "Actually, I'm not an unreasonable person. As long as you give me the antidote obediently and help Rongrong vent her anger, I'll naturally let you leave the Miao tribe." Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes with a look of disdain. Such a person, with such a face, was actually the patriarch of the Miaogu clan? Is there no one left in the Miao tribe? Letting such a brainless person become the clan leader? Aren't you afraid that the 100 years of prestige of the Miaogu clan will be destroyed? He was a dignified clan leader, a 45 to 54-year-old middle-aged man. He hid behind a young man. Furthermore, he was acting so arrogantly, using the young man as a stepping stone to criticize others. Why did Yi Qing Luo feel that this clan leader was so childish that it made one laugh? Seeing that Yi Qing Luo wasn't like what he had imagined, begging bitterly, instead, she looked at him and smiled. Miao Yixiong's expression turned cold, and his eyes instantly became sharp. Just as Miao Yixiong was about to continue speaking, the young girl smiled sweetly, her eyes sparkling with a dreamy light. A sweet voice spilled out from the girl's pink lips. Chief suggestion is not bad." Miao Yixiong's words were stuck in his throat. He opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. He felt an indescribable strange feeling. Yi Luo's smile, his tone. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't sound like he was agreeing with him. However, he couldn't tell what was strange about it. However, when he saw Yu Ji standing in front of him with a cold aura around him, he felt a chill run down his spine. Miao Yixiong reckoned that Yi Luo would not have a chance to make a comeback. He sneered. "You should have been this tactful from the start. Give me the antidote." Yi Qing Luo touched her chin. "Even if I give it to you, do you really dare to let eldest Miss Miao take it?" "You!" Miao Yixiong clenched his fists. Indeed, even if Yi Qing Luo really gave him the antidote, he did not dare to rashly give Rongrong the antidote. If Yi Qing Luo gave him a fake antidote, wouldn't Rongrong also die? Miao Yixiong didn't know about the grudge between Yu Ji and Yi Luo. He only knew that if he took the antidote and left, and the antidote was fake, by then Yi Luo would be killed by Yu Ji. His precious daughter would be buried along with him. No, absolutely not. Rongrong was the Miao tribe's future sacred maiden. This was the only chance for him to stabilize his position as the Miao tribe's clan leader. Chapter 2474. The more Miao Yixiong thought, the more flustered he became. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as she saw through Miao Yixiong's thoughts. She scoffed and looked away in disdain. Yu Ji's expression was indifferent. He had been watching their battle in silence, and there was no trace of anxiety on his face. When Yi Qing Luo's gaze fell onto him, only then would there be a hint of arrogance between his brows, as though she looked down on Yi Qing Luo from the start. To Yu Ji, the young girl in front of him was indeed not worthy of his attention. Secluded solitude, Yi Qing Luo calmly called out Yu Ji's name, You're here is because of me? Yu Ji frowned. Yes. Who is your master? Hearing Yu Ji's reply, Yi Qing Luo was almost certain that this Yu Ji obviously knew her real identity under her disguise. Yu Ji would become Lan Ling Nuo's guard and come to the Northern Wave continent. It was probably because of her. These people with the surname Serenity, which plane of power did they belong to outside the Nirvana realm? Also, behind them, that venerable one. Who exactly was he? Why did he target her so many times? When you die, Yama will naturally tell you. Yu Ji sneered. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. I know what I'm doing even if you don't answer. Yu Ji's eyes flickered. Everyone says that you are eloquent and know how to use pretense to win people's hearts. It seems that it is indeed so. Is Yuhan talking about Yunu or Yunu? Yi Qing Luo didn't beat around the bush with him as her lips curled into a sneer. To be able to conquer people's hearts, it means that you have ulterior motives, and you have something that I can use against you. Her smile gradually curved her eyes, but her expression was still extremely cold. Yu Ji glanced at Miao Yixiong, who was rooted to the ground as if he had been petrified. There was obvious disgust in his eyes. Following that, he looked towards Yi Qing Luo and spoke out impatiently. Give him the antidote. You want the antidote? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and put on a smiling look. Yu Ji frowned. What? Do you want me to use force? But even if you use force, you won't be able to get the things in my profound phoenix ring. Yi Qing Luo's curved eyebrows blinked as she smiled in an infuriating manner. The profound phoenix ring was different from an ordinary interspatial ring. If it turned into an ordinary spatial ring, he wanted to take over the things inside the spatial ring. As long as he defeated his opponent and dug out his opponent's profound heart jade, he could use the power of the profound heart jade to open the spatial ring. However, the Netherworld Phoenix ring could only be opened by its owner. Yu Ji's eyes were cold and gloomy as it swept past the red jade ring on Yi Qing Luo's fingertip. He suddenly flipped his palm, and a thick and strange black power rolled in his palm. Immediately following that, he had already struck towards Yi Qing Luo's face at lightning speed. Lady Nethery, when Miao Yixiong saw this, he cried out in shock, The antidote! The antidote! Scram! Yu Ji suddenly waved his sleeve. Miao Yixiong was sent flying by the shockwave and tumbled to the ground. She saw that powerful and majestic momentum enveloping Yi Qing Luo from all directions. Miao Yixiong's pupils were filled with that black profound energy as it exploded and collapsed in his eyes. The ground was shaking incessantly. It was as if this dungeon could collapse at any time. Under such circumstances, how could Yi Qing Luo? How could she still be alive? Chapter 2475. Yu Ji's attention was all on Yi Qing Luo's direction. He did not notice Miao Yixiong's crazy behavior. In a moment of carelessness, his arm was scratched by Miao Yixiong. Yu Ji's face darkened as he shook off Miao Yixiong. However, Miao Yixiong's emotions were no longer stable. He held on to Yu Ji tightly. Sharp nails pierced Yu Ji's skin. His eyes were bloodshot as he glared at Yu Ji fiercely. You promised to get the antidote for me. How dare you go back on your word? How dare you violate our cooperation? Yi Luo was dead. No one could cure the poison in Miao Rongrong's body. There was only 1.5 months left until the Saintess selection. Miao Rongrong could not become the Saintess. The other clans would then take advantage of the situation to rise. His position as patriarch, I can't sit still. There was nothing left. Miao Yixiong was filled with hatred towards Yu Ji. If it wasn't for Yu Ji's arrogance, he also wouldn't take advantage of Yu Ji's presence to mock Yi Luo repeatedly. Didn't Yi Luo want money? If it could be solved with money, then it wouldn't be a problem at all. At the very least, Rongrong could become the Saintess. At the very least, he could keep his position as the patriarch. At that time, how much money would he have? The more Miao Yixiong thought about it, the more he wanted to strangle Yu Ji. But Miao Yixiong had never thought about it. The person who invited Yu Ji over from Lanling Nua was himself. Even though he knew that Yu Ji's target was Yi Qing Luo, he still chose to believe in her without any hesitation, which was himself. Relying on the momentum of secluded silence who had once defeated Yi Qing Luo, the one who was arrogant was still himself. What right did he have to blame others? However, Miao Yixiong would probably never understand. Yu Ji was annoyed by Miao Yixiong's craziness. He furrowed his brows and waved his sleeve. Miao Yixiong's body was sent flying by the strong wind released by Yu Ji. With an indifferent expression, Yu Ji turned around and walked towards the exit of the dungeon. Miao Yixiong fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he grinned and laughed loudly. Yu Ji, why don't you leave? I've already planted the heart-devouring parasite in your body. Ha ha ha. As long as you leave a distance of 6 feet from me, the heart-devouring parasite in your body will eat you bit by bit, until all that's left of you is a skeleton. Yu Ji's figure paused, and his face was covered with a thin layer of coldness. How dare you? Miao Yixiong said fearlessly, I just want Rongrong's antidote. Once I get it, I'll cure you. Otherwise, all of you will be buried with the Miao tribe. In any case, he would lose the position of the Miao tribe leader. It was as if he had lost everything. Yu Ji lowered his head and looked at the wound on his arm that was bleeding black blood. It seemed that Miao Yixiong had used the opportunity of going berserk to plant a gu in his body. Damn it! He was too careless. The cultivation of gu and xian qi were completely different. Yu Ji did not dare to rashly use xian energy to force the gu worm out. Miao Yixiong, I can help you get the antidote, but I won't let you go. Yu Ji glanced at Miao Yixiong coldly. He did not like the feeling of being threatened. Once the gu was cured, he would kill Miao Yixiong. Miao Yixiong was not a fool. He could clearly see the killing intent in Yu Ji's eyes. But Miao Yixiong could only continue to pretend that he did not know. When he got the antidote, it would be up to him to cure Yu Ji's gu. If he could control Yu Ji in his hands and make Yu Ji work for him. Chapter 2476. Yu Ji suppressed his anger at being tricked. He took quick steps towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. The rubble around the dungeon was about to collapse. In the air waves were still swirling violently. Smoke and dust covered everything in front of him, making it blurry. He could vaguely see that there seemed to be 3 people lying on the ground. He didn't think about anything else and directly walked in the direction of the figure. In Yu Ji's knowledge, he was the strongest person in the Nirvana realm. Even if Yi Qing Luo wanted to play any tricks, none of them had any effect on him. Moreover, he had absolute confidence in himself. That strike just now, even if Yi Qing Luo wasn't dead, he only had one last breath left. Yu Ji walked closer. The figure on the ground was dressed in red. She was lying on the ground with her face facing the ground. Her messy black hair covered half of her face. Apparently, it was no doubt Yi Qing Luo. Secluded silence half squatted down, his sword-like eyebrows furrowing slightly. On Yi Qing Luo's body, there was a lady's delicate fragrance. It smelled much better than the artificial, flowery fragrance on Dark Girl's body. Hey! Yu Ji reached out and gently pushed the figure lying on the ground. But the feeling of his palm touching her was not that of a young girl's soft body. Instead, it felt extremely solid. Yu Ji's eyes slightly widened as he suddenly realized something. He stood up abruptly and quickly tried to retreat. But just as he stood up, his vision was filled with dizziness. His body swayed and he fell heavily to the ground. Secluded solitude. Miao Yixiong was confused when he saw Yu Ji suddenly fall to the ground. He propped up his body that was injured by Yu Ji and walked over shakily. Don't come over. Yu Ji gritted his teeth and growled. His voice was hoarse and devoid of strength. Miao Yixiong's face stiffened and he stopped in his tracks. From this angle, he just happened to be able to see the young girl in red lying on the ground in front of Yu Ji, and she seemed to be dead and didn't move at all. Yi Luo's corpse? However, if it was Yi Luo's corpse, how did Yu Ji suddenly become like this? Yu Ji was an expert who could easily defeat Yi Luo. Miao Yixiong was puzzled and looked again. Only then did he realize that the person wrapped in the red clothes was not a young girl, but a piece of steel. He then looked at the two faintly discernible figures not far behind him. There was no need to guess. It was definitely the broken steel of the iron cage. This realization caused Miao Yixiong's eyes to gradually light up. This meant that Yi Luo was not dead. Since Yi Luo was still alive, Rongrong's poison could be neutralized. Yi Qing Luo led the Bu family's two elders as they carefully sneaked around the dimly lit Miao Stockade Village. Fortunately, the Miao Stockade Village cave was a forbidden area for the Miao tribe. Apart from the entrance and certain places within the Miao Stockade Village's cave that were guarded by guards, other than the entrance, and certain places within the Miao Stockade Village's cave, there were no other patrolling guards. The three of them did not run into anyone along the way. But what gave Yi Qing Luo a headache was Peach did not have a map of the Hmong Stockade Village. After all, it was the forbidden land of the Miao tribe. No matter how powerful Peach was, she couldn't get the map of the forbidden area. Previously, when she followed Third Elder Miao into the Miao Stockade Village cave, the totem on the wall had a huge impact on her. As a result, she had no way of memorizing the route. She could only follow the feeling in her memory and led the Bu family's two elders away. Young lady. Chapter 2477. Elder T was panting heavily as his face turned pale. That's right, young lady. Leave on your own. You will definitely be able to leave the Miao tribe. Let's leave together. Yi Qing Luo interrupted their persuasion without hesitation. Don't you believe in my ability? I know you're very powerful. But no matter how powerful you are alone, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Elder T's face was filled with sweat from nervousness and running. His moist eyes were filled with emotion. Little girl, it's enough that you've done so much for us 2 old fellows who don't even know each other. We know that you have a kind heart, but we shouldn't have harmed you just to survive. From the moment you chose to believe me in the Bu family village, we are no longer strangers. Yi Qing Luo lowered her voice and said gently, in the Bu family village, you believed me once. Believe me again today. I will definitely bring you away. Yi is still waiting for you. Yi. Grandma Bu's voice choked as she called out this name. Tears rolled down from her eyes. We are ordinary people. Following you will only implicate you. Elder T hugged his old wife tightly. Me and this old wife have lived for more than half a year. Even if we die here, it doesn't matter. Before I die, I'm already satisfied that I can wait for this old wife. I won't leave you alone. If you don't want to implicate me, then listen to me. Yi Qing Luo held onto each of them and used her own strength to support the 2 old men. Go! If it was somewhere else, Yi Qing Luo would definitely let Shiju out and carry the 2 old men away. But in the Miao village cave, it was strange and eerie. The pair of jade eyes, the big bloody mouth, the roar of a wild beast. All of these were deeply imprinted in Yi Qing Luo's mind. She couldn't summon teas and was worried that Shiju would be affected by that pair of jade eyes. Especially, summoning Shiju would expose their whereabouts. Yi Qing Luo could only use her own strength to support the 2 old men as they left. Not even a few steps away, Yi Qing Luo's ears twitched. Following that, her eyes congealed slightly. Someone was approaching. Did Yu Ji discover that she had made use of steel to create the illusion of their corpses, then used the blink movement secret art to escape the dungeon? She purposely poisoned her robe. Once Yu Ji got close, the fragrance from the robe would seep into his skin. Yu Ji will definitely be poisoned. It was impossible for him to catch up to them so quickly. However, the aura behind him was getting closer and closer. Yi Qing Luo didn't have any other choice as her gaze swiftly surveyed the surroundings and directly headed towards the nearest corner in a flash. She brought the two elders of the Bu family and hid in a dark corner. The sound of a group of orderly footsteps could be heard. Yi Qing Luo sneaked a glance from the corner of her eyes. Sure enough, it was someone dressed as a Miao guard. It seemed that her escape with the Bu family's two elders had been discovered. Yu Ji didn't chase after them himself. This meant that he was indeed poisoned. These people must have been sent by Miao Yixiong to find Miao Rongrong's antidote. If Miao Yixiong was searching for her, she still had the confidence to win. He was sure that Yu Ji was poisoned. He couldn't do anything to her for the time being. Yi Qing Luo's heart relaxed a little. Kacha! Suddenly, there was a pulling force behind her. Granny Bu softly exclaimed, "Old man!" Chapter 2478. Behind Yi Qing Luo was originally a wall. Even if he fell, he would only fall to the ground. But Yi Qing Luo only felt that her body was empty. Then his body began to fall rapidly. Yi Qing Luo's reaction was swift as she grabbed Grandma Bu's hand tightly. Granny Bu held Elder T's hand tightly. The three of them descended at an extremely fast speed. Yi Qing Luo was adjusting her breathing and releasing her profound energy while sensing the surrounding atmosphere, making preparations to descend any time. The more he fell, the more Yi Qing Luo thought about it, the more astonished she became. This hole was at least 1,000 meters wide. How could there be such a deep cave under the Hmong stockade village? They continued to fall for a while. Yi Qing Luo was keenly aware of the changes in the airflow. She immediately released her profound energy to slow down the speed of their descent. Then he summoned Shiju. Shiju's massive body caught the three of them firmly. Very soon, Shiju landed on the ground. It was pitch black all around. The two elders of the Bu family simply couldn't see what was underneath. They were still in a state of shock, their bodies trembling as they constantly groped for the things beneath them. He only felt a ball of soft fur. Everything's fine now. Yi Qing Luo gently held the two elderly's hands and comforted them softly. The darkness did not hinder her at all. Yi Qing Luo could see her surroundings clearly. This was an oval-shaped cave. There was nothing inside, and it was completely empty. She jumped down from Shiju's body and took out a luminous pearl. The cave was not spacious. A luminous pearl was enough to illuminate the surroundings. When the light returned to their eyes, when the two Bu family elders saw the thing they were sitting on, it was a huge black leopard, and they almost fainted from fright. Luckily, Elder T's reaction was fast. Seeing Shiju's huge head rubbing against Yi Qing Luo's arm bit by bit, he heaved a sigh of relief and pulled the old woman into his arms to pacify her. "Old woman, it's all right. This is a pet raised by a young lady. It's all right, it's all right." The relationship between an old couple was as beautiful as their first love. "Just rest on Shiju's back for a while. She's a battle-type war pet and can protect you, don't be afraid." Yi Qing Luo patted Shiju's head gently and immediately walked away. Shiju took small steps as it followed behind Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo took a look at the surroundings. There were no traces of any mechanism in the surroundings. Could it be that this place was really just a cave? Were they going to die in this cave? Yi Qing Luo calculated in her mind the distance from the top to here. The idea of using profound energy or relying on Shiju to fly up. It was obviously impossible. They would definitely fall midway due to exhaustion. "Young lady, are you looking for an exit?" Elder T was carried on Shiju's back as he followed Yi Qing Luo for a few rounds and asked hesitantly. Yi Qing Luo nodded. "Look at the ground there." Elder T pointed to the place where they had just fallen. "I remember that I saw something there, but it was very blurry. I couldn't see it clearly, the ground." Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up. She only cared about looking for traces on the surrounding walls. But he forgot to look at the ground. Following the direction that Elder T pointed, Yi Qing Luo quickly walked over. As expected, when they fell, the place where they were blocked by Shi Ju's enormous body, there was a very complicated but very obvious mark. However, perhaps too much time had passed. The ground was very dirty. It was impossible to clearly see what these marks were. Yi Qing Luo squatted down and touched it with her hand. Chapter 2479. There was indeed something strange about the ground. I'll hold this pearl for you. Elder T saw Yi Qing Luo's solemn expression and wanted to do something for her. Yi Qing Luo didn't refuse and placed the luminous pearl in Elder T's hand. Elder T held the luminous pearl and stood by Yi Qing Luo's side, trying his best to make the luminous pearl's light so that Yi Qing Luo could see the ground more clearly. With one hand free, Yi Qing Luo began to use both hands to feel the concave feeling of the ground. Her fingertips brushed past, and her mind followed this outline, slowly forming a picture in her mind. This concave outline was very big. It occupied at least 1/3 of the cave's terrain. Such a big outline. She had just run several laps in this cave and actually didn't find this outline. Yi Qing Luo secretly ridiculed herself in her heart. When did she become so careless? After describing it bit by bit, the outline that her palm touched gradually formed in her mind. It was an extremely huge beast. Yi Qing Luo hadn't been able to figure out the specific shape, but Yi Qing Luo could be sure that this was a beast whose size was at least bigger than Shi Ju, Qi Qi, or Qian. But she couldn't be sure. Was it the carvings on the ground that carved this beast into such a huge one? Perhaps to figure out the overall shape of this beast. Then she could leave this cave. Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up slightly. Her hands that were exploring also sped up and began to explore the interior of the beast. This was the head, eyes, nose, mouth. Yi Qing Luo touched down bit by bit, while forming the shape of the beast's head in her mind. Her fingers suddenly touched a sharp place. A sharp pain came. She trembled slightly and quickly retracted her hand. A hole was cut on her fingertip. Fresh blood gushed out. She looked down and looked at the place where her hand was cut. It was the beast's totem's teeth. The sharp teeth were still stained with her blood. The drop of bright red blood made this carved beast seem to add a bit of vitality. This thought made Yi Qing Luo's heart suddenly tightened. In a trance, she once again saw that pair of green eyes. The bloody mouth that was stained with blood let out a low roar. The eyes of the totem imprinted on the ground flickered with a faint green color. "Little girl, little girl!" Suddenly he heard Elder T's urgent call. Then his body shook violently. Yi Qing Luo opened her eyes with heavy eyelids. She then met Elder T's worried eyes. "Little girl, what's wrong? Are you okay?" Yi Qing Luo's breathing gradually calmed down. His eyes gradually regained their clarity. What happened to me?" Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes as she recalled that pair of jade green eyes which she had faintly seen earlier, and her heart constricted tightly. "You just—" Elder T hesitated, as if he was choosing his words carefully. "You looked like you were possessed. You stared at the ground and looked like you were in a trance. You didn't seem to hear me when I talked to you." It was the same thing again. Earlier, when he had followed Third Elder Miao to the dungeon, he had encountered such a situation. When Yi Qing Luo saw that pair of jade green eyes on the surrounding walls, it had happened before. Now it was that pair of green eyes again. It was a bloody mouth. It was a wild beast's roar. What on earth was going on?